Defining Duke is brought to you by MeUndies. MeUndies are made from micromodal fabric, which is not only soft, but breathable, light, and impossibly cozy. Check out their new Space Jam collection in the softest undies, socks, bralettes, dog hoodies, and loungewear available in sizes extra small to 4XL. Here's your chance, do your dance, to score with their new collection before the time runs out. Now, if you're interested in all of that, to get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed, go to MeUndies.com/Duke. That's MeUndies.com/Duke. Try it out. Promise, it'll be worth it. Defining Duke is brought to you by Mack Weldon. It's so much more than just underwear. Their full collection includes t-shirts, polos, button-ups, shorts, pants, swims, and so much more. And with light, breathable fabric technology, Mack Weldon will keep you comfortable and cool all summer long. So, for 20% off your first order, visit MackWeldon.com/Duke and enter promo code Duke. That's MackWeldon.com/Duke, promo code Duke for 20% off. Mack Weldon, reinventing men's basics. Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and welcome to Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. This is episode 28. As always, I am joined by my boy, Lord Cognito.
Get your dukes up, my boy Matty. What's going on? The Beast is in the building.
Excited,
Let's go, man. I'm excited.
We got a good week.
Topics.
We got a good week, man. I was excited for the show. It's going to be fire. Thank you all so much for writing in, filling it up with your submissions. We have lots of write-ins throughout. Of course, as always, our warm-up questions and ending questions, but also the news itself. But before I do all of our housekeeping stuff, I always like to see how the man on the other side of the show, how is he doing? How are you feeling?
Doing good, man. A lot of good games, a lot of good information coming out. Obviously, these topics are fire. I can't wait to get in that. But yeah, man, I've been in my bag. I've been in my Destiny bag. I've been still in my MLB The Show. Our Mets are doing very well, sir. Mm-hmm. So still excited, you know what I mean? But that's been pretty much it. What about you, man? What you been getting into?
Oh, man. Judgement. Been playing a lot of Judgement. About 13 hours into that. Been a good time. I have some qualms with it. I want to finish it before I talk on it more. I'll probably talk more on it with Ham Radio. But outside of that, man, life's been all right. It's just been not bad, not good. Like, we really joke about that a lot on the show when it was like myself and Carrick. We all wished everyone a very mundane day, because you have to have the bad to have the good. In fact, I've been going through a mundane experience. So, of course, I sit here and I record in the studio for this show and all my other video content. And this building is typically empty, which is great, right? I get to sit here, I get to scream. I wore a Batman costume in a video. I was like out in the hallway outside my office, like recording a fight scene with myself. Like, you know, I'm doing all these stupid things because I'm like, no one's here, right? And suddenly this new business has moved in here. And I'm like, man, they're like all over the place. They're walking around. It's such a huge change, man. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying, such a change of environment.
They're cramping your style now. You can't don the suit and run around.
Yeah, right. Now I can't like wear these crazy outfits, walk out my office like no one's here, because now there are people in here. It's wild. So yeah, that's been the biggest shakeup of my life. And with that, of course, welcome one and all for another great episode of Defining Duke. So if you're new here and you want to support us with a little early access, patreon.com/laststandmedia is the way to go, where all our episodes go live on Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And then if you want to freeload, we're just happy to have you here as we continue to just roll on with this show, whether it's Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube video versions on the Last Stand Media channel, wherever you want to get us, we're there, and we're happy to serve you. We just did episode 24 of Defining Duke Ultimate. It was myself and Cog. We talked about director's cuts for PlayStation games and smart delivery. And while they're not directly one-for-one comparable, we really just got into the pricing of next-gen upgrades and Sony's routes of adding content on top of upgrades. And should those upgrades be free? Is Xbox's just ease of throwing in the disc going to work for everything? And how will Sony's director's cut moves start to leak into other games like we saw with EA and their dual entitlement program? So we get into all of that. It's patron only, so you have to be signed up to listen. So there's another reason to flick us a buck. Give us a listen.
We're giving y'all heat, man. That was a good conversation. Very passionate. Love that one.
1 hour long.
Yeah.
Just want to shout out the audience as well. We had a couple of resubmissions for mobile ratings. We appreciate you all so much for that, because I know it's a pain in the ass. But if you got a little extra time, whether you're sitting there waiting, you're on your lunch break right now, listening to us, wherever, whenever, if you got a little time, we'd appreciate a resubmission just to update it with the current hosts, because I know most of our reviews had to do with Carrick. So if you're not going to put 5 stars, get the hell out of here. But
drop that 5.
But outside of that, hey, we're done with our housekeeping. Let's get into warm-up questions. First one comes from Nandan Patil. Hello. Amongst the whole next-gen upgrade fiasco for Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding's director's cuts, I got back to thinking about $70 next-gen games and how many third-party publishers are joining Sony in this practice. Do you think Xbox will ever start charging $70 for their first-party Xbox Series games this generation, or is Microsoft a big and rich enough company for them to warrant continuing at $60? I feel like Microsoft doesn't need to preemptively pull the plug on $60 games. If they continue as is, they will get even more goodwill from the public, with big stuff like Starfield and Halo being cheaper than their competitors' major titles. Maybe later on, once everyone is more used to this price tag, they will jump ship to $70. It might also be a good way to combat the possible situation where Microsoft doesn't see Game Pass as a sustainable or profitable service anymore, which I don't think that part's going to happen. But Cog, what do you think of Microsoft pricing their games? Like, I'm going to look up Microsoft Flight Simulator just because I was just going to
ask, to see if that's been consistent, because initially I'm going to say, I don't recall them seeing in the $70 range, but if you could check real quick on that.
$60.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because I'll be honest with you, Matty. Like, I thought, when Sony announced, they're going 70, I just thought that this was going to be the new industry standard, and maybe Sony kind of put themselves out there first, and then Microsoft going to do the same thing, to be brutally honest. So I was very surprised to see that. So to Nandan's point, I mean, it could be two things. It could be, one, obviously Game Pass is the driver, and let's be real, Microsoft's pockets are not hurting per se, right? So they didn't necessarily, not that Sony's is, but I'm just saying, like, they're in a position where maybe they could absorb that cost, and they may be feeling it out. But in the long term, I would assume that they would have gone into that direction of the $70 bag. But what do you think? Do you think it's something that, like, this generation, they're going to stay at that and continue it with Game Pass as driver, or eventually they going to follow suit?
I think I have a lot of thoughts on this, actually. They all you ever have a question you get asked and like they just pile on? You're like, you know what? I actually have a lot to say on this one. I thought I wouldn't have much. So Halo Infinite, Xbox One, it's across all Xbox consoles, of course. This is a game that's going for $60. We haven't really seen a true Flight Simulator is that, but I'm talking like a true landmark next gen title, probably like a Starfield, a Redfall
will be the question.
Contraband. Like, I think that's where we'll get our answer on where Xbox lies with it. I almost say make it $70 because, number one, the rest of the industry is doing it. I don't think they will be vilified for it, but also it makes Game Pass more attractive, right? Like, that just sort of works in your favor. It's like, oh, I don't want to spend $70 on all these new Xbox games coming out. I'm going to get Game Pass. I also do think, though, that PlayStation sort of worked themselves in a corner where they need to price their games at $70 because of a value proposition. Like, their games are high quality, by the way.
Of course.
Not taking away from that. But because they have such a high bar set for all their games, if any, like, people are looking at those price tags and thinking to themselves, well, like, this is a clear from visuals to gameplay, replayability, like, this is a $70 game that you can really sink your teeth into. And then you get something like Ratchet and Clank, which I didn't find had the legs I was expecting. But I think if you charge $60, PlayStation fans will be like, well, what is this? Even though it may have been more fairly priced,
good point.
It's viewed as less than, just because some people, equate the value. I mean, not even like it's wrong. You equate the value of an object with its price tag. So when I see a Focus Home interactive game for $50, like a Plague Tale Innocence at launch, I'm like, okay, there's some cutbacks here. There's got to be. It has smaller budgets, so they're thinking $50 is the profitable price to charge at. And then you play, and it's like, oh, it's a 10-hour game, and there's literally no replayability here. So it's a one and done. That's why they're charging $50, and it wasn't this clearly huge budget. So
Yeah.
I think if I'm Xbox, they'll work their way into $70. At least that would be my guess. I don't think they need to earn goodwill. Game Pass is good enough for goodwill. Smart delivery is good enough for goodwill. They don't need to just keep. They also just are obligated to their shareholders to make the most money they can. So
absolutely
$70 games when everyone else is doing it, I think that's the least worst thing they'll be doing. And just to wrap up my thoughts, I think of a game like Starfield, and look, if it means that Bethesda Game Studios can go all in on a hardcore RPG like I've wanted them for years, but they need to charge $70 for it, like it's fine. That's fine. I'll pay for that. But I know it's a tough pill to swallow as we get deeper in the generation because other locations are having them at a much higher price.
Yeah, that is true too. I didn't think about that. Yep, good point.
So a lot there, but thank you for the question, Landon. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Derek Scott's up next. Hey, to my new favorite Duke duo. Thank you, Derek. All right. Just want to start off by saying Cog is killing it with the energy and insight he's given so far. You guys are off to a great start, Cog. There's so much love for you every episode. I could say the dumbest shit on an episode, bro, but because you are just here being a star, like, Cog, let's go.
No, that's love, man. Appreciate y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.
And this question is more for you. It says the question's more for Cog. I'd love to hear if Matty has any experience with this title too. I heard Cog mention he's a big Destiny guy. And as someone who just started getting back into Destiny because of all the DLC content is free on Game Pass, are there any tips or recommendations for a new fellow Guardian who hasn't played since the OG Destiny 1 days? Love what you guys are doing. Keep on keeping on. I haven't played since the OG Destiny 1 days. So I default all of this to you, man. And for those who are interested in Destiny, you and Dustin are our actually Chris as well. I've heard a lot of people on Last Stand play Destiny. So where do you sit on this game?
Yeah, look, Destiny's life. That is the soul sucker. At the end of the day, it's like shout out to Derek. Yeah, if you're getting in, I tell people because it was in Game Pass, right? It's a great entry point because most of the stuff it's free to play. And what you want to do, I always advise people is generally it's a very overwhelming game if you don't have like a clan or friends, right? Because people could kind of walk you through. So the first bit of advice is kind of join a clan, or if you have at least one other two people to play with, it's always good to play the game like that. You can play a single player, don't get me wrong. So that's the first thing. The second thing will be the campaign stuff, because actually Destiny's narrative is actually pretty decent. It took them a whole game to get there, but they're actually in a good place. So what I would recommend is, if you can, probably in the order of do the Forsaken, what you call a DLC, do the campaign, the story missions there, do the Shadow Keep, do that. And then currently where we are now is Beyond Light. That's the expansion that initially launched into Game Pass. So you could do that campaign as well. Now, where Destiny expands and gets really crazy is you can do a lot of end-game stuff. And there's three basic tenets. So there's strikes, Vanguard strikes. There's Crucible, which is the PvP component. And then there's Gambit, which is kind of like a little mix. And Gambit is really fun and short and sweet. So what I would say is try each of those, see which one you like. And whatever you like, whatever activity you're doing it, whether it's strikes, Crucible, or Gambit, make sure you grab bounties. That's the new thing with Destiny. Like, it's almost like, don't just do it. You'll get experience, but don't do it for free. You know what I'm saying? So when you grab a bounty, say, hey, if you say you're playing strikes, get 5 grenade kills, right? You grab that bounty from the strike vendor and then do the strikes, and then you get your experience for playing and you get the experience for completing the bounty. Okay. So that's what it is. So stick with the basic stuff, and as you level up, you get stronger, then you'll be awarded to access higher light stuff. A lot of the stuff is either dungeons. That's kind of like a 3-person, very hard activity that, the game doesn't really tell you. Obviously, raids, that's like I would advise you at one point when you get high enough, you do need to try a raid, because that's what I fell in love with Destiny. Destiny,
that all the time, man. Brother,
like a 6-player raid is one of the greatest cooperative experiences in gaming, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Wow. That's what made me truly fall in love with the game. I'm like, yo, this game is way more different than I thought. And the sense of accomplishment, like everyone has a job to do, a role to do. You're picking each other up. That's your brother. That's just like, it's love. So I would say you got to try it at one point once you get high enough. And any other questions, man? Hit me up, Derek. I got a Destiny podcast. Got to plug a little bit. The last word, my boy Bontis. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, like Destiny is a fun game with friends. You can play it solo. But like I said, if you stick to that mantra, do the bounties, do the stuff, you'll be okay.
how do you deal with, I got to ask for my own personal just experience from hearing Dustin talk about Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with when you get like reset with a new expansion, or they tell you to throw out all the stuff you work for? To me, that's what always kept me away. I'm like, you could tell me that there is a cure for one of the worst diseases on the planet in that game. Like, I'm not going in, because once I get in there, man, and you just take my loot away, it's like, whew, how could you?
Yeah, but bro, no, great point. This was a huge point. Like literally one of the most fiercest debates I had with my boy Ibante. Shout out to him. It was called sunsetting. So what Bungie did at the time was say, hey, let's say you've been playing it for a year. You got to a certain point. They're like, okay, after a year more, you won't be able to use these weapons that you bled, sweat, and tears for. And we're going to move those out because of power creep. And we're going to introduce these new weapons. And you're going to fall in love with this. And I struggled. I was just like, it doesn't feel good. You made people do very hard activities to accomplish these goals and get these god rolls with these perks. So it was a big point of contention. They brought it in. I wasn't happy, but I dealt with it. And a lot of people left, like you said. Man, they were like, nah, you can't do that to me. You can't make me do all this stuff, and then you're going to take my guns, my armor away, and then try to make me get new stuff. So now, about 2-3 months ago, a big TWAB, which is the This Week at Bungie, affectionately, and they canceled sunsetting. And they said, I've never seen, and it was a big controversial decision at the time. They reversed sunsetting, and now everything is there forever, I guess, to perpetuity. Okay. Yeah, so we'll see, but I'm a firm believer it'll come back. That's just me.
The one thing that could have got me in the door, I'm just like, never mind.
I'm just going to be honest, because the reason why they claimed they did it was power creep, that there were too many weapons and that they're worried about balancing and, and stuff like that. And if you now continue to create weapons for whatever, unless, I got a caveat, Destiny 3 happens. If Destiny 3 happens, I assume there will be a reset and they'll make some story thing. The tower blew up or whatever. And I'm okay with that, because they need new servers. They need a whole new engine. I mean, the game's got legs, but that's pretty much it. But I would say right now, for Game Pass, for the free, also cross-play is coming next season. It's a good time to get, and the story is the best it's ever been. I will say that. The story is actually really good.
That sounds awesome. I am intrigued, but
let me know when you want to come to the dark side.
I was gonna say I gotta wait for the biggest void in my gaming life, where it's like something needs to fill it, and I'm like, all right, Destiny looks like only it. Like, no games on my retro shelf are calling my name. Nothing in the Game Pass library. Like, I need to be in the darkest time of my life.
Darkest time. Oh, best gunplay, though. I will say, some of the best gunplay, brother. Yeah.
Number 3 comes from Brett Medlock. Hey, Duke Heads. I recently made a post on Facebook talking about how Game Pass titles are now streamable on iPhone. I got a bunch of people commenting saying they didn't know it was a thing or even possible. When do you think Xbox marketing will really penetrate the casual gaming audience with Game Pass and or Game Pass streaming? I can't help but feel a lot of awesome features and consumer-friendly moves by Xbox are flying under the radar. I keep getting flashbacks to the PS Vita days when casual gamers had no idea what it was, despite it being amazing. I don't care if there's an Xbox show, man. The Vita is the GOAT. It's so good, man.
Bro, I love the Vita. Vita's still doing things Switch can't do.
I know, right? That screen, man. They had it there back in 2013, and now Switch is promoting it here in 2021. I mean, God,
I still got my baby.
I
still got my baby.
Yes.
We still here, baby. We still out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm official, baby. The Duke is official. Yeah, I love this thing, man. One thing, real just sidebar.
Sure.
I always love the fact that they had party chat between Vita and PlayStation, and no matter what app you were in or game you were in, it would be consistent. Like, I love the device.
It was so ahead of its time in a lot of ways.
Big time. So what we got?
It'd be a great xCloud device, honestly.
Yes.
That kind of gets us into our topic. So when will Xbox marketing penetrate the casual audience with Game Pass or Game Pass streaming? And I think a lot of it really boils down to they haven't marketed it I haven't seen commercials for it or something like that. Probably because it's in beta, right? Like maybe once it's full, they'll start pushing on big sports games and stuff, like Play Anywhere. I could see commercials like that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you actually just made a good point. I didn't even think about that. It's technically not official, right? They're cloud streaming they got, they stopped calling it xCloud and called it cloud streaming. But yeah, I don't know if it's still in that official capacity yet, because even the browser part, right, we were still in beta and stuff like that. And that's something I really wanted them to push to compete with Stadia. So I think it's a situation maybe that once they officially announce, hey, the data servers, the data centers are up here and this is up and it's now official as a service and blah, 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 then maybe that's why the marketing push hasn't come. Because I am surprised. They really have to do a better job, in my opinion, of letting people know that this option exists. And I'm going to beat that drum. So yeah, I'm with Brett. Like they really need to do a good job, especially Game Pass. I want them Game Pass as an app. That needs to be, screamed from the mountaintops. But what about you?
I agree. Yeah, I think the social media sort of goofs are only going to get them so far.
Right.
Like, oops, we dropped another game on Game Pass, and they do that on Twitter for like 2,000 likes. I just think, it's cheeky for us who are there in the core audience, but I think they need to go beyond where Game Pass is marketable. Like it's there. It's not I don't want to say it's not complete, but it's always evolving. But it's an established service. They could make commercials for it and really get it out there. That's the thing is, I wonder if they're waiting for Game Pass to be big enough where it is recognizable. So then they could post a commercial of Halo Infinite and it would say like play day one on Game Pass, or they would post like a third party commercial and it would say play day one on Game Pass. Right.
Yeah. I think you're on fire because it makes sense. You want the biggest names associated with it so that when you see it, like you said, when Infinite's drop and it's like, all right, Super Bowl or something. And then you see, oh, wow, I could play that now free in Game Pass. I'm thinking Starfield, bro. I'm thinking like those real heavy hitters that obviously this is way down, but think about Elder Scrolls.
My God.
You show the Elder Scrolls commercial and you be like, Game Pass at the bottom. Bro, it's going to break the internet. Now people are like, yo, I got whatever that Game Pass is, I got to get it because it's associated with this big name. So yeah, do that. I think like how they had MLB The Show, I just want to see that commercial push. I want to go to a movie theater and not escape it. I want to I want to see a billboard. Yeah, like I want to not escape this thing. It's the greatest deal in gaming. And to your point, they may be just waiting to associate it with those big, massive names. And then that's when they do it. So
I also think they got a branding issue. I thought changing it from xCloud to Game Pass streaming wasn't smart. I just feel like it doesn't sound separate enough. I don't know how else to describe it. It sounds like a tier within a service that some people have never heard of. So I feel like they've got some work to do on that front. But also, I don't know, maybe Xbox wants a little bit of word of mouth marketing for Game Pass, because that's really what got it here was just, you got to try this. Like, it's insane. Right. No way. Right. And you download it and you go, oh, you can just hop in and all these are available. I just think maybe they want to ride that a little bit more, but I would like to see a little more mass marketing for sure.
I would agree.
Number 4 comes from Kevin. Hey, Duke, Matty, and Lord Cog. Do you guys think with the expansion of games coming to Game Pass service over the next few years that people, while playing the games they are interested in, will feel a little overwhelmed by the amount of games that are in there? I recently started to mess with the service, and after a few days with it, I started to get the feeling I get from opening Netflix app. A lot of choice, but not sure what to invest my time in.
It's a good one. I like this one. It's funny because, shout out to Kevin, I do relate. It's one of those things, like sometimes when you have so much, you're like, it's what they call it, paralysis by analysis. It's so much. And you're just like, damn, what I've learned to do, I've got a rule now. Game Pass is so good. So what I do is I use the pin feature in Xbox. And I got a rule. I'm like, okay, so whoever's on that first row, y'all got to get completed or finished. So right now, my first row is MLB The Show. Let's go Mets. You already know.
Let's go.
You know what I'm saying? Destiny, of course. That's always at the first row.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mass Effect Legendary Edition, because I'm on part 2. I'm halfway through 2 now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm rocking that. And then the fourth one, I think, is Outriders, because it's finally working and I got to get it finished and I just want it off my hard drive. So that's my first row. So how I do is I pin it so it's my reminder. When I press the Xbox Live Guide button, it comes up and I'm like, yeah, this is the homework. This is what needs to be completed. Because otherwise, it's overwhelming, bro. It's so many things. And then I'm the type of person, I'm like, whenever there's a new update to a game that I like that I haven't played, it's like Squirrel. Oh, Skate the K has a new update, and then you know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, I get two, so I know what Kevin's talking about. Like, you know what I mean? So I mean, it's real, bro. Like, I just have to prioritize. Otherwise, I will never finish anything. How do you handle it?
I don't go in there, man. It's like opening a social media app. You're like, where the hell did the last 15 minutes go? Because I'll just start window shopping and like I'll just go, oh yeah, I'll play this. I'll download it. Like I downloaded Bug Fables the other night. I'm like, it's still sitting there. I'm like, what am I doing? So I just don't go in there now. I just don't. I really don't. Like I went in there to get all 3 Dead Space games. I played all those for a video project, and so you know, I shouldn't say I'm like fully off of it, but I think your idea of downloading and then pinning. That's a good self-control method. Because for me, it's just, there's so many games that are attractive. I know the audience really wants me to go back to like Final Fantasy 12 because I've swore that game off. I think it's so bad. But I know a lot of the audience writes in, they go, oh, come on, Matt, like you got to try it again. It's like, I don't know if you want me to get worse over this game. But, you know, so yeah, there's games like that I've downloaded off of Game Pass. It definitely provides that overwhelming feeling. But I tell people, I was like, if you got a little bit of retail therapy that you enjoy, you know, Game Pass is a perfect vector for that. Because like for me, sometimes I like to do that. I'll be completely honest. Like I like to do, you know, you're like you feel a little off. You're like, I'll go buy something. Yeah. And Game Pass, you just go in there and download a ton of games, and it's a good feeling. You're like, oh, look at all these experiences waiting for me. That aside, though, it is really overwhelming, and I find myself not getting into the app sometimes because I know, like I'm mid Judgement playthrough. I know there's stuff in there because, like I said, I have some qualms with Judgement where it's like, you know, something could distract me enough to pull me off of Judgement right now.
Gotcha.
And I don't want that. Like, I want to see Judgement through. Just because there's so many compelling games out there. It's really easy to get pulled off of one, even if a game's good. Like, it's just, Judgement is a good game. It's just, you know, like, it's so easy to look at another new experience and go, oh, like you said, squirrel, and just off you go across the street to the next game.
So true, man. Oh, yeah.
Defining Duke is brought to you by MeUndies. If there's one thing that's absolutely awful on this planet, it's that no Knights of the Old Republic remaster exists. If there's one thing that's worse than that, it's uncomfortable underwear. And that's why MeUndies exists. They believe that comfort is more than what's touching your skin. It's about being comfortable in your own skin. For me personally, I tried on a pair, I threw out the old, in with the new. It was that real slam dunk kind of feeling. And hey, speaking of slam dunks, MeUndies' new Space Jam print features Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and other iconic characters who are all tuned up and ready for a rematch. MeUndies are made from micromodal fabric, which is not only soft, but breathable, light, and impossibly cozy. Check out their new Space Jam collection in the softest undies, socks, bralettes, dog hoodies, and loungewear available in sizes extra small to 4XL. Here's your chance, do your dance, to score with their new collection before the time runs out. Now, if you're interested in all of that, to get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed, go to MeUndies.com/Duke. That's MeUndies.com/Duke. Try it out. Promise.
Last warm-up question, and we'll get into the news. Where is the virus? Writes in, greetings to the big dogs of Duketown. I don't own an Xbox, but I love the show and love what each of you bring to the table. Thank you. My question, can we make the argument that the original Halo is the most important video game exclusive of all time? It put the Xbox brand, on its back and carried it into relevancy, and 20 years later is still the defining IP that everyone associates with Xbox. Where would Xbox be without Halo as a launch title? Would it even exist in 2021? Love to hear your thoughts, Keenan. That's a loaded question. We could really define our careers here based off our answer.
We could define Duke here. Listen, man. He makes a compelling argument. I mean, it's very hard to go against it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I questioned Microsoft's announcement into gaming back in the day. Like Microsoft, they weren't known for that. They weren't synonymous with that. So yeah, it took a game called Halo to make me believe that they can produce these fun experiences, and then let alone prove in the console space that they can do FPS, because that was a big thing. Like it was like, oh, it really can't be done, you know, correctly, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, then that, and I think Halo is responsible, in my opinion, for truly fathering Xbox Live. I remember having Halo 2 and being blown away just, yo, we're talking, there's chat, proximity chat, and then what? Like, so yeah, man, I mean, where would Xbox be without Halo? Where would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I look at Nintendo and believe Super Mario. Was Super Mario a launch game? I genuinely don't know. This is before my
NES,
time.
NES, it was Duck Hunt and Duck Hunt and what you call was the packet, I believe. I don't know if it was. I'm not blanking on that.
I'm not sure.
I should be
but
old enough to remember that.
Because I would say if Super Mario were one of them, then I would say that might be arguably the most important video game exclusive, just because of how it carried Nintendo for so long. As it buoyed them so much that they could expand into so many other IP with it, and now it's so relevant that they can make sports games with it. They could do crossover strategy games with Rabbids with it. And they can make multi-million sellers off of it.
It was Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Sorry.
Okay. No, perfect. So that makes it a little more of a convincing argument. With that said, though, I look at PlayStation and I'm thinking to myself, like, PlayStation does a really good thing where they carry certain IP, but they evolve a lot.
Yes.
And as a nostalgic guy, I love and hate it, right? Because you get stuff like Ratchet brought into next gen, but you get something like Sly Cooper left on PS2, and it's like, or PS3 technically with Thieves in Time. Kills me to this day. But so I don't know. Someone will freak out over this, but I don't know if they have like a particular IP I think of outside of maybe like Nathan Drake with Uncharted, where it's like, that's like the PlayStation IP. And even then, like, they brought in The Last of Us, which connected with more people, or as many people. I connected with The Last of Us more, at least the first one. But yeah, when it goes to Xbox, I mean, it's really hard to. I really do think Halo's up there. If it's not the top, it's a top 3 for sure of important exclusives. Nothing, because that's the thing is you have that centerpiece that is then surrounded by everything else, like a Gears, Conquer. There's so many different things, that the appetizers, although they will become the main course for a lot of people. So yeah, it's really hard to find a title as significant as Halo. That's for damn sure.
I agree, brother.
All right. So we got ourselves, like I said, some pretty exciting news to get into this week. I'm just revising it real quickly here because I think the numbering got messed up, but I know we're okay here. So number one has to do with, of course, the latest rumors on what's going on with Warner Bros. Because there's been some talk on that. So let us begin. As part of a deal with Discovery to combat the likes of Netflix, and part of that process would lead to parts of Warner Bros. Games division being sold off. Since then, speculation has run rampant on the possibilities of what Xbox could do with their hands on the likes of a team such as TT Games or NetherRealm. Since then, a report has come out from the Xbox 2 podcast stating that they have seen documents showing both the studios were no longer in the scope of Warner Bros. Future operations, so they may be sold off. Since then, Warner Bros. Has denied the report, saying the following to the outlet Gamer. I can confirm NetherRealm Studios and TT Games will continue to remain a part of Warner Bros. Games and are all included in the Warner Media Discovery merger, the rep said. Ollie Reynolds writes in, "Hi, gents. Hope you're both doing well. You'll have no doubt seen the rumor recently regarding the potential sale of NetherRealm and TT Games, a rumor that was swiftly debunked by Warner Bros. Games. Naturally, a lot of people made the assumption that Microsoft would snap up these studios, but I think we all need to chill out regarding any more potential acquisitions. Microsoft needs to walk before they can run. And with a lineup of games covering the next 2 to 3 years at least, my opinion is they're spinning more than enough plates to keep them going for a while. Would love to know your thoughts. All the best to both of you." So let's start off with that. What do you make of this development? I went and listened to the Xbox 2 podcast, and Jez was the one talking about the documents, and he was very clear, by the way, that he was like, this is just what I've seen, and he doesn't like to talk like it wasn't a source to say. He's like, I like to lay my eyes on stuff, so I want to, I trust Jez. I know he's not talking out his ass, right? I believe him on this, that he saw something that would suggest that. But it may be that plans change. So what do you think of everything that we're reading here?
No, again, I agree. Shout out to Jez, that's the homie, and shout out to Red Outdoor, the man with the million. Love those guys. I think it's one of those things, like you just said, Matty, like, I would trust that if this document exists and it came across his plate, you know what I'm saying? That it is what it is, right? But at the end of the day, like you said, plans can change, right? And we don't know. There's many things that people had documents for at one point and then never came to fruition, right? So grain of salt on whether or not it happens. But to me, I just look at those things as at one point. This was, whether it happens or not, at one point, this was on the table. That's how I look at it. And as far as the overall picture, I just say, we talked at nauseam about Microsoft having to diversify this portfolio with Game Pass and having different types of studios. And we talked about, like I said, the NetherRealms and stuff like that. And I forgot the other one, Travel's Tale, right?
Yeah.
That does the family stuff. So these are things that are needed. These are studios that would fit specific needs and give you a nice, diverse lineup for Game Pass. So, as far as to the overall question, like they should chill and focus on. I'm of two sets because Colin made a good point before the old Sacred Sims. Like his whole thing was like, obviously if you acquire a lot, there's a lot of management responsibility, right? Mm-hmm. And that part is true. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot, because I think that's Matt Booty's job now, right? Yeah. There's a lot on his plate in regards to that. But I still feel that if Game Pass is the driver, and remember, they're going past the console market. They want the billions and the billions of games. You need studios. You need content. You need people pumping this thing out on games on a quarterly basis and stuff like they're talking about. And you need a diverse lineup. So, yeah, I'm still of the mindset acquisitions. And if you can have situations like how Bethesda was, which is, let's be honest, Bethesda's already self-contained. They were their own beast. So you don't have to monitor them the way you would do another. You know what I'm saying? Because like you bought the whole house, you bought the building. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Kind of thing. But what do you think? Exactly.
Yeah, I'm of the same mindset that I do think they need to continue to make acquisitions. I think there's no denying that these two studios fit really specific needs for them. I think honestly, TT Games addresses more for them than NetherRealm does. I think that does more for their services and their growth than NetherRealm will. NetherRealm's more like a protective, we can't get wiped out of the fighting game battle. Like I would not be surprised if they overpay for NetherRealm at some point, strictly because if PlayStation were to come in and get them, that would be it. Like there would be no chance that Xbox could compete in fighting, because now they got Evo, they got NetherRealm, everyone's making fighting games for PlayStation. Like it's over at that point. Like go get Iron Galaxy, I guess, and have them make some fighting games. Like sure. But TT Games I think is an important get for them on a growth standpoint. I don't know if they really need to walk before they can run. The reason I say that is because if Bethesda's managing themselves, then in this case where they acquired them, then it's up to them to walk and run. So it's not on Microsoft other than signing checks, doing quality assurance, and really making sure that they have what they need on a development front. That's all it really boils down to. That's what Microsoft needs to do, is be as hands-off as possible, but involved enough to just sway the project in a positive way, which is just money and testing. Those are the two major pillars I think that they could address all of these companies with. So if they're going to buy Avalanche, makes sense. They're 3 studios and Avalanche manages within those 3 studios. It's like you bring them into the family, they're going to handle themselves, but they're going to have Microsoft at their back where they're not going to go, oh, this game, if it flops, we're going out of business. Right. That's the difference. So I don't know if necessarily they need to walk, because they quite literally already are, as far as I'm concerned. They just need to get games out, right? But there's only so much they can do. It's only so much they can do now. So we got a bunch coming this fall. But I think, if you want Game Pass to grow and be consistent, that's the thing. Right now we're entering a pretty fun time for Game Pass, but it's not a big pop level of Game Pass. Like we're getting games like Death's Door, Chris Tales, we're getting The Ascent this month. Like these are great. It's a great friggin' indie month, man. Like I'm so excited for these games. But at the same time, that's not going to grow your service, right? You need to make these big. Well, I shouldn't say they're not going to grow your service. It's going to sustain it though. But the big pops are every quarter are going to be what get customers in the door, and they know that. They know that it's about getting the big bangs and supplying them with other pieces that will help build up the service overall. So, that's going to go through acquisitions, because that's the only way you can do it consistently. And they're going to They're going to do many of them, I feel.
I agree.
The next question on this topic comes from Frank Ortiz. He had 2 separate questions, but we're only going to use one of them. Apparently, TT Games, NetherRealms, and the rest of the Warner Bros. Interactive is off the table, according to a Warner Bros. Spokesperson. So, should Xbox pull the trigger and acquire a fighting game studio like Iron Galaxy or Erica Studios? And for a platforming studio, maybe Tequila Works, who worked on the underappreciated Rhyme, or even Armature Studios, formerly of Retro Studios, who worked on Recore. I think Phil needs to make a move soon so we don't have to wait an entire generation to have a possible new Killer Instinct, or please, for the love of video game gods, a new Banjo/Conquer. Thanks, Matt and Cog. I hope the rest of your day is very disappointing, like ordering a pie only to find out it has no filling. Oh, man. That's just cruel.
Yo. Yeah, man. I mean, look, we talked about, like I said, the fighting thing. I agree with him. We don't want to wait a whole generation for that. You said it perfectly, Matty. Like, you don't want PlayStation getting NetherRealm.
No.
Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, that would, you might have to overpay. Yeah, I mean, I'm with it, man. I love all these ideas. You know what I'm saying? I love the Tequila Works thing. Obviously, those guys did stuff with Rhyme and stuff. I'm with everything. Acquire. Go out there, buy it up, flex the wallet, do what you do. Like, I'm with everything. I'm with all this, man. Like, what about you? Do you think they need to be, let me ask you this. Do you feel they need to be selective with what they acquire? Or where's your mindset with the types of acquisitions?
Okay, so they've shown that there's really no hesitation to double up on certain things when they have these studios in their fold. Like, they're having Elder Scrolls 6 at the same time as Avowed, at the same time as Fable. And it's like, okay, you've got a lot of fantasy RPGs in the pipeline. That doesn't matter to them. They just want people to, which we're going to actually talk about in a little bit. They just want companies that they own just to make the games that they want to make. However, you want to also get people who make a specific type of game that maybe you currently don't have.
Right.
So I think they have to be a little selectful in the type of developers they're getting. If they get like another open world developer or another first person shooter developer, I'd be like, I don't know if that's really necessary, but also, what's the harm in one more shooter? If you have Halo, Doom, those take a lot of years to get going. Halo being a platform, we don't know what that's going to look like with its next, I put in quotes, entry. And how they're going to launch it off of Halo Infinite, what that will actually be like, none of us know. We've never experienced that before.
Correct.
I guess in a way, kind of with Destiny, with how they did it. But, I think on an official, like a new sequel within a platform, I don't think we've really seen that. So we're refreshed with all of this. And those games take some time where, like, I think maybe they could get a new first person shooter in there and I wouldn't argue it. But I do think, they need to be wise on who they get. I don't think blindly buying is intelligent. I do think they don't. A lot of people want them to make the big splashes, and while I think that makes sense, I look at something like, I remember Carrick had reported on the show that Microsoft was looking at Focus Home at one point, and I heard that and I was like, that would be great, because Focus Home is self-managed. Not only that, but they do a fucking good job usually. Like they do a phenomenal job at these AA games that just come out of nowhere, by the way, like a Vampire. And you're like, this is amazing. Like, Vampire is a top RPG for me of that gen. I love that game. That came from Focus Home. Like, that was published by them. I think they helped publish Greedfall, another phenomenal RPG.
Very criminally underrated.
Yes. That's on Game Pass, by the way. But it comes from Spiders, who normally isn't that. They're not a bad developer. They just have these amazing ideas that are never really executed, in my opinion, quite right. And they got it right with Greedfall. And so I feel like Focus Home is gaining momentum, where I feel like Xbox could get them cheap, and you don't got to go in and hit these big home runs. Like, look smart, not just rich, And I think
Facts.
You could get someone in Focus Home who could make a fighting game for you, for sure. Like, they just have all these random talent within their portfolio. So I think they do need to specifically gobble up studios that are self-managed. I think independent ones are going to be few and far between. And if they are, they're going to be smaller, where they don't demand as much headspace, maybe, of Matt Booty and his team.
No, you're on fire. I like the Focus Home joint, bro.
I do.
Like
I would love that. I would love that.
I've always, like I said, when I would hit the shows, I would their booth would always intrigue me. I would
know,
always see things that I really liked. And you may be onto something with, not necessarily having to break the bank and just, like you said, flexing the spending muscle. But I feel like those up and comers, right? Those ones who, like you said, the AA space, who make quality. And now if they had a little bit of backing behind them, and like that could really nurture into something really cool. And there's one other point. I don't want to say it now because we're going to talk about it later, that they are going to focus on as far as studios that I'm loving, and we'll get into that later on.
Yes, I know you are.
You know where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for writing in, Frank and Ollie. We appreciate you. And let's move on to our second bit of news, which is, speaking on an episode of the Kind of Funny Games Cast, Phil Spencer opened up on the hardware roadmap of their controllers. Quote, "We're definitely thinking about different kinds of devices that can bring more games to more places. There's probably some work that we'll do on the controller. I think Sony's, not Sonny, I have a friend named Sonny. I think Sony's done a nice job with their controller. And we kind of look at some of that and think there are things that we should go do. But we're probably not in the more bespoke accessories place right now," he added. "We just look at what's happening on Windows and other places and see if there's unique opportunities for us. Right now, I don't think there's any that are obvious to me." He also touched on Xbox's likelihood of getting into VR/AR. Quote, "We're watching what happens on PC," he said. "As it relates to VR specifically, the best experience that I've seen is Quest 2, and I just think it's untethered and easy use of access in its capability just doesn't, to me, require it being connected to an Xbox in any way. So when I look at a scenario like that, I think of xCloud. I think of the Xbox Live community. I think of other things of how we could bring content to a screen like that. Whether we do something like that through first or third-party partnerships is kind of a second step. We think the games that we currently have are able to run on our platform would work there." All right, so controller, VR updates. This is not something we were expecting this week, but I think the controller is the most tantalizing one for our audience. We have a lot of PlayStation fans out there. We read one from a PlayStation fan who doesn't have an Xbox, so certainly there's a lot of DualSense lovers out there. Yeah. Let's get your thoughts on that first before we get into really what Phil said. Where do you stand on the DualSense?
I like the DualSense. I remember, to be honest, usually when I hear haptic feedback and the buzzword and the controller does this and that, and to me it's new system talk, right? So I don't usually get caught up with the hype, but I can't front. I threw that Astrobot on. I was moving around, the different textures and the way things were feeling, the haptic feedback, aiming the arrow, and I'm like, yo, this is kind of a deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a unique experience. And the key for me is always going to be first party actually utilizing the actual tech, right? So from a pure tech standpoint, I like it. As far as like Xbox now talking about this is something that they're interested in, I did find it interesting, Matty, that they had that survey will go around, and I'm in the insider program, and I get those surveys a lot. How would you feel about this? How would you feel about the controller doing this? So they are seriously thinking about it. And look, I'm never going to be one to say don't do something, for just because I'm not necessarily wowed all the time by it. But hey, if there's a market for it and they want to put it this way, Xbox fans have proven just by me posting a damn picture of my new controller on Twitter that they love accessories and they love controllers and stuff like that. So if they come out with another iteration that has these type of features, and as long as they utilize it, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to, do a backflip. But what about you? Or you feel it's like gimmicky? Do you feel like this is something they need to or they shouldn't invest? Oh, last point before I give it to you.
Oh, sure.
There is one caveat. I like the idea of it. Let's just get these games out, though. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, they could probably do both, but I just want not anything resource-wise to take away from game development in the game. So,
of course. So I always felt like Xbox's willingness to do this would really hinge on how often we saw third-party devs making use of DualSense features for the PlayStation 5. We saw Capcom with Resident Evil 8 do it. I remember when I played Black Ops Cold War, I played it with the campaign. I'm not as in love with certain parts of the DualSense as others. I I like the sound. I love the specific rumbles of it. That is probably my favorite part. Like obviously Astrobot being the main showcase of that, but that was, back when the console launched. I'm hoping to see something from a first party game now wow me in the same way. I've heard Returnal does a really good job, so I do want to give that a shot because I don't want to write it off.
The click in on a shot is a different trigger press. You feel it. It's very, very different.
Yeah, because I had it on for Ratchet and Clank, and like I mentioned, Resident Evil 8, and the adaptive triggers just to me felt like something was stuck in my controller. It didn't feel that great. Like there wasn't enough of a difference per weapon where it's just like like I was just like, I just I didn't like the feeling.
Okay.
I like when it's smoother, like when you're pulling back a bow and you hear like the like that's when it's like, yeah, that feels good. Like when the adaptive trigger is more resistance based, feels awesome. When it's more clicky, I don't like it that much. And maybe it's just a game by game implementation. But really, it is those specific rumbles and the sound from the controller has been massively improved that I think is good. So I want to see Xbox mess with it. And I think because you're seeing more third party do it and PlayStation is committing to it, that if Xbox were to jump in this race, it would be a staple. And not only that, but I think there is something to be said with evolving the game experience. And there were games on PlayStation, once again, like an Astrobot, that were carried by its controller. That was a new experience.
Yes.
And so that's important. And I think if you give the creatives at Xbox an opportunity there, maybe they could provide their own Astrobot-like experience where it's like, this is something that, sorry, but you can't get anywhere else unless you have this controller here on this console. And so there's something really powerful about that I'd be excited to see them tackle. It's about pricing, of course, too.
Pricing, of course. And last point, it has been a while. I love the Xbox controller. I love where the analog placement is. That's my style. Mm-hmm. But it has been a while since they've truly iterated the controller.
Yeah.
If you mean, it's kind of stayed the same for the most part. So there's an argument there for people. But I do hear your point. The other point I do want to say is where I do agree with you, where sometimes I feel that DualSense stuff can get in the way, is like in the competitive shooting space. Like I don't want to be haptic anything when I'm trying to get my TTK on or Destiny on. Like I don't be giving me resistance in the joint. Like I'm with you there. Like there's some places where I don't feel it's really suited for in a very competitive space. But
absolutely. And that's why I remember in Call of Duty, I turned it off for multiplayer, just right away. It's like, yep, we're at a disadvantage here. So nope. That's the other thing is I wonder if in a game like Returnal, it feels like you're at a disadvantage because you have to have that extra click. I know it's such a fast paced game. You can die real quick. Just like a good run can turn on its head fast. So I would love to hear from the audience on that. But yeah, I'm also of the mindset that now you got to get people to go out and buy these controllers to do this, because what PlayStation did very wisely was they packaged them with the console. So now you've got that uphill battle to fight to get people to buy in. Where, I mean, if they're already making these features for PlayStation, maybe Xbox is looking at it saying, oh, it's as easy as literally plugging and playing now for our Xbox Series consoles, where you can do the same thing over here. Like I'm talking on the developer front. Like it's not this massive programming challenge. Maybe that's why they feel it's possible for them. Cause I was a little surprised. It's like, oh, maybe PlayStation just beat them to the punch on this. But it seems like there's something they're seeing where they think they can jump in late and benefit from it. So we'll see on that front. VR and AR, are you into VR, Cog? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm a baby. I gotta shout out one of my favorites, Bill Stillwell. He's one of the ones that's leading the charge, and I was resistant with him. I remember when he was a Microsoft lifer, and then now he's with Facebook VR at Oculus, which what you call is mentioning Phil. I remember pushing back at him, and I'm like, this is gimmicky. I was like, nobody doing this. You know what I'm saying? And I was a hater. I ain't going for it. I was a big old VR hater. I laugh. I look how doofy they look. Like I was that guy clowning people. I was bad. Like if you remember, sidebar, there was like either a Time magazine, and they were like, VR is the future. And they had a kid with the VR. He was looking up. And he was all strapped in. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I was like, see, this is the look that we don't want gave us that. I was bad, bro. Now, I got to pull it back. I've actually experienced a couple, of VR games, because I said, look, I can't keep clowning this thing. I ain't even try it, right? So, I experienced a couple, really cool. I haven't really dived into PSVR, but like a lot of the Oculus stuff. And it was actually pretty cool. And the one that everybody screams about, and I did shout out to my boy about one was a fun one, which was Beat Saber. That was fun. But what you call Half-Life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've heard good things.
It's it's the deal. It's the deal. You can see now, you're like, okay, there's potential. Am I sold all the way? Like, oh, this is definitely absolutely the future. Like, I'm always going to be traditional controller guy. That's just in my soul. But I do see the lane, you know what I mean? And, as we're going to get to this point with the whole AR, VR with Phil, I actually defended Phil on this. I was just like, look, I get it. It's trending, but I still feel it's niche. And in my opinion, that's not the focus. The focus is last generation. You didn't have first party games that were hot like that. You relied so much on third party. So let's fix our house first. Let's get this done. Then you can play around and do with all this other stuff. That's just where I'm at with it. And I know a lot of gamers that love VR get mad when I say that, but that's where I'm at. If they do it down the road, once they've established and we've got these Xbox bangers that are out, then, or if they want to let the third parties come in with Oculus or whatever and make it attach or whatever, fine. But I personally don't think it needs to be the focus. And I'm a guy that was there when HoloLens was launched, and I met Kudo and those guys and get a chance to try this stuff out. And it's cool stuff, but I just want the games. Xbox, please get these games out. Then you're going to worry about the narrative, and the narrative's going to change and you're going to see. But what do you think, man?
I love VR, right? Like I remember I got a Rift and I love it. It's just great. I can't play it for long, unfortunately, but I do enjoy what I can play of it. My only gripe with it is really it's such a high buy-in. There's so few games for it, which, I think everyone already knows. But what I didn't expect was, as I'm a Rift owner, so there's certain games you can experience on there, and then the Quest 2 comes around. There's certain games you can only play on Quest 2, and I found that weird because they were both on the Oculus platform, but one only works on Rift, one only works on Quest. So it's like, I don't want multiple VR headsets in my house, and I know Quest 2 is like more wireless and disconnected, where it's probably more nice to use. But I just, for me, that's sort of what pushed me away, was the idea of like, oh, okay, I need to get multiple headsets here. And that's why I think PlayStation's done so well. They have this budget headset. It may look terrible when you're looking into the lens, like you have blurry glasses on, but it's cheap. People can just buy games for it, and they don't have to worry about major evolutions underneath the same banner that go from Rift to Quest 2, and they're like, well, why doesn't this game on my Rift work because it's for Quest 2? So that's where I sort of fall back from it. You were totally on point. I don't really think too much on Xbox doing VR, because I think you got to make your home console and PC games, like you got to get those right first. Once you get that rolling, go experiment, go have a blast. But until then, just sit down, get to work, Thank you. I agree.
PlayStation has afforded that. They've had, what I'm saying, as far as the
they're allowed to experiment with the Vita, with the VR, because they have this home console joint that's been working for years, like 2013, 2014.
Yeah. Final point is, I think me and you talked about it in reference to, I don't want them to get the fool's gold like they got with Kinect. With the Kinect on the 360, they caught a wave, and then the next generation, it was like, okay, we're going to pack it in and it's going to be that. And this is the experience now.
Oh,
and yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Look, focus on these games, man, and then you can come back to everything.
I would love to have been in the conference room, just sitting there watching them talk up this game plan for the Xbox One reveal. Like, there are so many moments that happen on stage that people are like, wow, I can't believe that happened. I'm like, I want to be there for the conversation where they plan it, where they're just like, I was saying this in my video talking about director's cuts, is where EA decided to like do the dual entitlement program, and they just sat there and decided, we're going to charge you pretty much $40 for this upgrade. I said, I would have loved to just be sitting there watching clearly these suits, folding their hands, adjusting the tie a little bit, just gently resting there going, we're going to fucking scam them. And it's, I'm just like sitting there watching going, really? Like they think it's a good idea. This thing is going to work. And they're like, well, why not? And I would love to be a fly on the wall for some of these decisions that these companies make.
Big time. One of the funnest moments of gamers.
Absolutely.
Defining Duke is brought to you by Mac Weldon. It's summertime. You know what that means. It's time for more games if you're me. But if you are a normal person, then it means it's time to go outside, embrace the sun, take in nature, listen to the birds chirp. And what better way to do that than with some Mac Weldon on your back? It's so much more than just underwear. Their full collection includes t-shirts, polos, button-ups, shorts, pants, swims, and so much more. And with light, breathable fabric technology, Mac Weldon will keep you comfortable and cool all summer long. That's especially important when you go out and you go for a swim, right? That's a usual summer activity that most of us have partaken in. And with Mac Weldon's swim line, their trunk and board short options are very quick to dry with a 4-way stretch fabric. To me, that's crucial, right? Because I look at when I was a kid, you had your swim trunk sticking to your thighs constantly. That stuff was so annoying. So for 20% off your first order, visit macweldon.com/Duke and enter promo code Duke. That's macweldon.com/Duke. Promo code Duke for 20% off. Mac Weldon, reinventing men's basics.
Number 3. Some of Xbox's most notable executives spoke in an interview with the outlet The Guardian in a way that sounds like it's targeting consumers, but most likely is speaking to future partners they hope to work with. For starters, Phil backs up the early access experience, showing that through the cloud and putting creators as the leader, that it could change the very way those games are made. Quote, when we can stream to any device, a PC, or it could be a phone, we can really look at how to make more of these kinds of early access experiences, even as a funding model for creators sometimes, he said. I think it can open up for a tighter relationship between creator and consumer. Creators are a huge focus for us right now, end quote. Skipping ahead, Matt Booty, head of Xbox Game Studios, joins the conversation on how first party within Microsoft runs. An excerpt from the interview reads, quote, Booty says there is no single overriding approach to game development under Microsoft's nor groupthink approach to design. Although the company has talked a lot about evolving games and retention and subscription models, not every game is going to get a season pass. We don't have any direction or mandate that says every game has to be an ongoing sustained game. Take Psychonauts. There might be a Psychonauts 3, but I'm not going to tell Tim Schafer to go make it. Knowing the history of games he makes, I don't think he's going to be making a game that has seasons or goes on for 5 years, he says. Sea of Thieves has longevity, and we're going to have Halo multiplayer start to be based around seasons. But Compulsion Games, our studio in Montreal, I'm dying to know what they're working on. Just side note there. We weren't going to tell them to build something that that's going to have seasons or 6 pieces of DLC or something. Tell Me Why was an important story for us to get out there, but there is no mandate. They've got to go figure out how to do seasons for that game. Phil Spencer backs this up with an earlier claim suggesting that Xbox is currently working on more narrative-focused games than they have ever had in their history as a company. The team collectively believes these risks will be taken despite the growth of seasons and recurrent content. In turn, through these risks and the payoff of their game plan, it is felt that the game development pockets can reach territories that were never development hotspots. Cog, I'm dishing it off to you right away. No setup.
Put your damn hands together. Put your damn hands together. This is what I'm talking about, baby. We made it. Hashtag just one. I was so hyped. I thought you may have forgot this topic and you promptly corrected me. You're like, Cog, no, I got you. It's in the notes. I was like, okay, whew, because this was the one. This was the one. Man, I've been dying on this soil, brother. I am so excited. Listen, I know a lot of this. People are going to say it's marketing, and I get that's fine. But I've never heard them clearly say it. You know what I'm saying? Like the single player narrative style experiences, right? That we know Sony is so well at doing. And here's the thing. The beauty of these comments by Booty and Phil is that 2 things that we've already confirmed. 1, they're not mandating. Yo, you have to make this. Get on that assembly line. Pump out these Halos. Pump out these season passes, right? We just had that conversation, right? Yeah. A couple of Defining Dukes ago. And we're talking about, hey, we just want them to be careful, that monetization model. And, is it going to go down that path? Now, there's going to be obviously some games that are going to fit in that mold. But to see them say we're not forcing, right? To see them say, single player experiences, some games that's going to have some risk. we're going to let them do. I love to see it. And then the last thing was, there was an interesting part about the creator aspect. I thought like they're going to do like almost like an early access. That part I'm a little, I got to see where they at. Because remember me and you talked about that, like the game preview bag. I don't know how I feel about that bag. You know what I'm saying? But everything else, I'm with it. And maybe, just maybe, because someone tweeted me something similar to this, and couple friends from some studios of mine from that are part of Xbox Game Studio were kind of like smiley face hinting. So I'm like, okay, my hashtag just one seems that it's coming, and maybe more than one.
Yeah.
So
might
I'm
be just
hopeful,
5.
man.
Who knows, man?
Yeah. Just 5.
Like,
I'm with it.
I would be all about that, right?
Let's go.
Yeah, I think this is to be expected, but the other thing is that when you look at Contraband, you look at Redfall, like these are new exclusives, next gen exclusives, but they are co-op, right? Like they're multiplayer in some way, shape, or form. Really, Starfield is the only game, and you would assume Avowed, maybe Fable, like these are games that are likely going to be single player only. So like you could try to write them off, but really I feel like Starfield's the only one right now that you can look at and go like, oh, single player narrative, perfect. I guess Halo's campaign too. I should throw that out there. But it's just, to me, what I think is most relieving is that they're not having an overriding approach. They're not saying this is what you have to have made. And that's why I think they've been doing this a lot lately, not to speaking on like, hey, we're having more single player narrative games than ever in our company's history. That's the first we've heard that. But they've kind of continuously beat the drum that we don't, override things, and we don't need longevity, and creators are a big focus. That one especially has been hit across like the Satya Nadella video, and they just like everything's about, I put in quotes, like empowering the creators, end quote. I think they're speaking more to other teams that they're looking to buy. I think they're speaking to other teams that are looking to work with them on an exclusive capacity. I think that's what they're doing, because these things are worded where consumers are going to get hyped about it, just naturally going like, oh man, look, Xbox is so great to work with them. I can't wait to see the games that are coming from them. But really, they're speaking to, I think, developers who are looking to work with them and going like, hey, we're saying publicly to an outlet, like we're putting it in ink. This is how we approach things. Like we're putting accountability on the line. Good here.
Point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's a marketing pitch to say, hey, if you get down with us in an ecosystem, we're hands off. We're gonna let you do this. We're empowering you. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. It's almost like a pitch. For acquisition. Yeah.
That Satya Nadella video, like that, the timing was, E3 hype. Like we're going to see them go all in. And by all intents and purposes, they really did. They got 27 games on Game Pass, lots of new exclusives. But to me, it was beyond that. It's like you had your CEO of Microsoft sit there with a Halo Infinite sweatshirt, go, I'm all in on gaming. Like that is something you're saying to other companies who are looking at you going, all right, they got the CEO of Microsoft again. That's never happened on camera and hyped about games, wearing game merch and saying like, I'm all in. Like that makes you go, all right, we might want to work with them if they're going out that publicly with it.
Bro, that's why I tell them when we had the DDU with Colin, that to me was significant. To me, that's one of Phil's greatest accomplishments. Even if he was to retire right now, and I got my little hierarchy, because I was a Peter Moore guy. Right, Peter Moore. I'm a Sega kid, so Peter Moore was my guy. He came over. I'm like, all right, 360 is one of the best generations. But absolutely. I have to admit, Phil is in his bag on the business and future of Xbox side. What you just said, when you get the CEO to commit to gaming, and it's not the ugly stepchild that it was perceived to be with Xbox, where okay, it's making a little bit of money, but our real focus is, Office 365, you know what I'm saying? Or whatever, right? At the end of the day, that guy, he don't listen, Phil know how to move in a room full of vultures, baby. He out here, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have to give him that. Like, it is so, we can't understate how important that is to get corporate suits to believe in gaming and then commit to gaming. So yeah, and to the overall point, if this now empowers, studios to come over and get excited about wanting to work with Microsoft and be a part of that ecosystem and partner up, more power to it. It's a great thing.
Yeah, because they really hit everything in this on a creative level. They hit, let's target, like, creators are a huge focus. They talked about funding models for early access.
Yeah.
They talked about season content. They talked about recurrent evolving content. They talked about single player games. Like, they addressed all these different types of games and just sort of went like, we got you and we got you and we got you. Like, they just hit all of these marks. And that's why I was like, I'm feeling like they're just talking to other companies with this again. But yeah, I'm just very excited to see them start to roll things out, as I imagine many of us out there are. We're getting there, right? Like I said, compulsion games. Like, I just hope that I hope they don't let down, man. Because
they chirping to me. I'm just letting you know, they've been chirping. There's a couple people over there. I'm like, all right, I'm getting excited. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so we'll see.
I just We Happy Few isn't a bad game. Just it had a lot of potential. I thought its universe though was fucking awesome, and I just want to see them without feeling like they got to do procedural generated content. Like, just make a full game. What does that look like from Compulsion? I cannot wait to find out. I think that was such a sneaky good buy for them. So we'll see in time, but
agreed.
Plenty of other to be excited about. Number 4. News that isn't shocking is still news. While Xbox fans aren't impacted by this, it's still movement on the Bethesda front. Ghostwire Tokyo, the next game out of the Evil Within studio, Tango Gameworks, has been delayed. Here's an official write-up from the team. Quote, "We have made the decision to delay the launch of Ghostwire Tokyo to early 2022. We want to get the game in your hands as soon as possible so you can experience the unforgettable version of a haunted Tokyo that we've been hard at work building. At the same time, we're also focused on protecting the health of everyone at Tango." Sorry, every post says this, man. It's like, It's so tired now. "Our new release window will give us time to bring the world of Ghostwire to life as we've always envisioned it. Thank you for being patient as we work to bring you an experience unlike anything else we've ever made. We can't wait to show you more in the coming months." End quote.
Yeah. Delay. I'm always going to be on the fan of it. Make the game as best as it could be. I was a fan of its first initial showing. Not so much the second one as much, because I remember, I forgot, maybe it was like a year. I forgot how much time had passed.
Yeah.
But the second showing didn't wow me as much. But I want to see what they do. Tango. I'm excited. Obviously, they had the Evil Within and stuff like that. I thought the premise was cool. I just want to see the execution. Take as much time as you need. So that's where I'm at. Very, very simple with this one.
Yeah. Really obvious delay just with how much they were marketing Deathloop in September, that this one, which had no noise at any state of plays, was clearly going to get pushed back. So I think that's smart. I wasn't crazy about what I saw either, just because what I saw was way too actiony for what was otherwise a studio that I thought, when they made the first Evil Within, I thought that game was, I still think, I went back and played it on Game Pass. It's fantastic. It's a really, really good survival horror game. And they sort of made this Last of Us style game in the Evil Within 2, which isn't bad. And I think people would like it. And they just really stepped away from that. Like, nothing about Ghostwire Tokyo reminded me of that studio, which isn't a bad thing. Maybe it's their best work. I'll keep an open mind to it, but I wasn't thrilled with what I saw because it looked a little too fast. You saw this guy punch in the air, shooting spells out at a ghost like Zenyatta. Yeah. Like, it was just, I was like, what is going on here? So I'll remain patient, check it out when it's out, but not a surprising delay at all. And so we will wait until early 2022. And they say we'll see more in the coming months. There's been rumors of more state of play. And of course, we have the likes of the Game Awards at the end of the year. So another one that could fall into that slot. COVID, brother. COVID's real. I try to tell people all the time, a lot of the, fanboys sadly would say, oh, it's only affecting one, our studio, our company ain't had no problem putting out games. And I'm just like, look, this is a pandemic affecting everyone. We're going to see delays. We're going to see that, this kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised, at least. Take as much time as you need. In quality product. Yeah, absolutely. Number 5. This is how patient of a host I am, because if I could, this was number 1. But I had to prioritize the Xbox and Bethesda stuff first. But I was like, all right, now that's done, now we're into it.
Let's get it. This is you.
Atlus has revealed some plans to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Persona series, and the festivities will begin September of this year, continuing all the way until autumn 2022. Alongside a new website for it launching, they state there will be a 25th anniversary commemorative goods, various events, collaborations, and of course, video game information. Among the unannounced projects, there are 7. The celebration is due to the 15 million series-wide sales that Atlus has reached, and recently it received a boost from Persona 4 Golden coming to PC, which passed over 1 million units sold 1 year later after its release, June 2021. Fans should reasonably expect one of these to be a Persona 6 reveal, given that the website features all the protagonists from this series with one blanked out from a question mark. Atlus has said for some time they will continue on to a Persona 6 much quicker than the gap between 4 and 5. But this is the first time they've addressed the scope of their project on a public level. The confirmation of Persona 6 comes through a recruitment page on Atlus Japan to garner new talent for the game. Quote, thanks to a large amount of support we received from Persona 5, we have gotten a sense of accomplishment, said Hiraoka, who is the director of the Persona games. But we can't stop there. When we created Persona 4, there was pressure that it had to exceed Persona 3. Now we will have to create a 6 which exceeds 5. However, exceeding 5 will be difficult with the current staff. I would like to surpass this tall hurdle with everyone who joins us in this recruitment. The workplace is perfect for those who want a creative challenge when it comes to bringing games to the world, end quote. Anthony A. is our next write-in. Hello, Duke and Lord. This September marks the 25th anniversary of the Persona series, with the Atlus Twitter account announcing that we should stay tuned for a year of Persona news and events. Do you think we finally get the announcement of a Persona series coming to Xbox in some form? Keep up the great content and welcome to the Last Stand Media Community Cog.
Yo, this is you, man. I'm
me?
actually just gonna say this is so you.
Okay.
So I would make it very quick. Bro, this sounds really cool. You know, I think something hopefully would be imminent. But I would defer to Matty, man, because this is his bag. This is what he does. He's been patient. What are you feeling about 25th anniversary? Do you think we get the blockbuster 6 or what's happening?
So a lot of people call me crazy when I put out my wish list, right? Mm-hmm. But I study Atlus like an attentive mofo, right? So I keep my eye on them. So one of the two of the things on my list were Persona 3 Remake and Persona 6. And people were like, no, like you're out of your mind that, you know, that any of these will happen within the same year. And I'm like, they're not launching in the same year. Because when you look at when Persona 5 was announced with its video, which was of a bunch of steel chairs and like ball and chain next to them, and it was about like liberating yourself, versus the official trailer, there was a large gap in time. So I feel like we're going to get a Persona 6 teaser in next year. That much I feel is certain. I think that's going to likely be their last announcement in 2022 because there's still room for Atlus likes their spin-offs. They've only done Strikers and Q2. And I think that's Royal technically is a spin-off as well. So they've done a lot of spin-offs for 5, but they haven't done Arena, which I think 5 Arena is a game that they are going to work on now that that Guilty Gear is out from Arc System. Since that's done, they can now move on to the next full project where they've expressed a lot of interest in a new Persona Arena game. So I feel like that's one that's on the table that's got to be made. There's just too much style and flair there for that to be left. Those two have worked together on the Persona 4 Arena titles in the past, Arena and Ultimax. Ultimax is great, but Arena, by the way, is back compat if anyone ever wants to try it. So you can fire it up. Just the original, not Ultimax for some reason, but just the original you can fire up on your Series X and play it. Persona 3 Remake, though. Some people have, really scratched their head, like, Matty, how? So I did a whole video. I'm going to try to really crunch it down here because it is a 48-minute video on my channel. It's called The Future of Persona if anyone wants to check it out. It's literally looking at Royal from top to bottom, all the things it does, how it drastically alters but yet retains the Persona DNA through its side activities and the content it includes. It's how will this impact the future of Persona as it grows? So one of them is, of course, with Persona 4 coming to PC on Steam and them selling 1 million units in a year. That's easy growth for them. Sega, we'll get into a story soon. PC is very important to them. So
we gonna get into that.
Yeah, we are gonna get into that, right? And so
that's another one,
right? Yeah. So they want to bring these games to new platforms, new series and old. So I think they are bringing these old games all over the place. And to answer Anthony's question, We'll get into Persona 3 Remake in a sec, but to answer Anthony's question, like, yeah, I think one of these announcements is Persona Xbox. I would be shocked if it wasn't like, yeah, Persona 4 Golden is on Game Pass. I would be really shocked if to celebrate the anniversary, it wasn't like, we're bringing it to more people, or another port is being done. It's going to arrive on some type of new platform. I haven't heard anything, but I believe that much because Phil has been pretty adamant in getting this. I know I've reported this on the show before, but I know he's made trips, like interested in Persona and working with Sega. So I know that Xbox wants Persona.
Yes.
It's really about like if Atlus can port them, if they're willing to, if PlayStation isn't really buying them out. But like I said, with Persona 3 Remake, the reason I say this is because there are a lot of assets and animations for the main character, for both the male and female protagonist, as DLC in Royal. And I know it's not as easy as plug and play, but they have the models from the dancing games, these 3D animated models for the Persona 3 cast. I just feel like there have been so many assets gradually made over spin-offs. I forgot to throw it out there. Persona 5 Dancing is another spin-off. But there's been so many assets made for Persona 3. The main, like Orpheus, his persona, or the main character's persona, I should say, for Persona 3. That's animated, and it's like, okay, that was added as DLC to Royal. I feel like they are building assets for a 3 remake and then using it as DLC, and so I think 3 would not do well as a port because it's very old. There's this tower called Tartarus that it's boring. I'm going to be honest. Like, it's not fun to explore. The game is nut crunching difficult. Like it just will sometimes hit you like a bus on normal difficulty. There's not many saves in the middle of it. It can just be boring and frustrating. Whereas Mementos in Persona 5 is this sort of, they took Tartarus and made it good. And so I'm like, okay, they've learned their lesson. So how could they learn from this and go into remake? I just think there's too many tantalizing, attractive options for them with a 3 remake that they could make that game significantly better. It's still a great game, by the way, but just modernize it in the right ways. I think 4 wouldn't benefit from a remake. 5 certainly wouldn't. Of course, the original 2 could, but they weren't even like the socialized Persona games like we know. So I think 3 would. Anyway, I could ramble all day, man. But
I love it. I love you in your bag. I love it.
I really could. You know, I adore Persona. I think it's a fantastic series. And of course, we do Game Pass pick of the week. And whenever Persona comes to Game Pass, you already know what my pick's going to be.
I would defer. I would defer to you. No, bro, I'm with you. Like I've only played 1. I think it was on PlayStation 2, 3. I forgot. I only played one. It's early one. The kids in the classroom, and it was for them, and I beat the whole game. It was good. It's very, very complex, deep storyline. I was like, this is darker than, it was a lot going on, but I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I just, for whatever reason, I just missed the subsequent ones. And then I felt like I was too far gone. And then, kind of thing. But everyone says 5. And literally, like, shout out to the question, is that I'm waiting for that Game Pass. So once it gets in that, then I'm like, all right, you know what? It's no excuse. It's in there. I got to be a part of it. Shout out to Addict. He's a big Persona guy.
Hell yeah.
Kaibatsu, my boy Kaibatsu. And then you. So then when I play it, I'm going to come to you like, hey, what does this mean? What's going on here? How am I moving out here? But I love the passion from the base. The very passionate fan base. Everybody I know that plays Persona, they love it to death. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get into it as soon as I get that announcement.
Good. Yeah, I just think, I genuinely think, even if you end up playing Persona and you're like, this story sucks, like I think as a turn-based RPG, 5 Royal is like one of the best you could play. It's just on a gameplay front, it's so fantastic. I think it's so forward thinking. It turns turn-based combat into something that's very fast moving. And it doesn't take control from you too quickly.
Nice.
There's just a lot of things that work really well as a video game beyond its themes and its storytelling. That's so fantastic. There's just, from top to bottom, there's no other game like Persona. And it's just, that's why it's so good. So I hope they bring it to Xbox. I feel very confident they eventually will. I have no doubt of that. A matter of when. I think within this year window to celebrate would just make sense. I don't know for sure, but it would make sense.
Yeah, the stars align. And if you said that, I'm Lord Turn-Based, so that's all you had to say now. I'm in. I'm all the way in now.
There we go. Hey, let's keep it up with Sega. Let's get into number 6 here so we can expand this conversation a little bit more. Judgment been talking about that a lot this show, the successful detective-themed spin-off of the Yakuza series is getting a sequel this September, and if issues persist, it very well may be the end of the series. Word comes by way of Japanese entertainment news site Nikon Taishu, where they have reported that the agency of Takuya Kimura, the model used for the main character in the game, are barring this game from entering the PC space. The agency goes by the name of Johnny and Associates, and they are living in the full-on Stone Age. The report states that the agency, quote, has strict control over the likeness rights of its talent, and the use of their image online is still limited to a few, end quote, which would make sense since it has also been suggested that he can't follow his own wife on Instagram due to his agency as well. However, it's the strictness impacting the business that Sega considers washing their hands of this series. Quote, the game makers have decided that if they can't distribute the game on Steam, it would be very difficult from a business standpoint, and the series will end with the second game, Lost Judgment.
Yo, yeah, this is a hot one right here, man. This is very interesting. A lot of components to it. Shout out to the agency, Dave. Why I gotta be Johnny and Associates? Johnny and his man, Johnny and them.
Yeah, well, right.
They said you can't make them
that's
games.
That's
man.
an ego name right there. Oh my god, bro! That guy was feeling himself when he picked it. He's like, "You're all beneath me."
Yeah, it's me and the rest of y'all. Like, I just think it's so hilarious. But shout out to that whole Johnny and Associates thing. Yeah, like, look, it's just very interesting because I've never seen this before. So basically, his agency is saying, I guess he's a prominent, actor or something?
Yeah,
or,
prominent male Japanese actor.
Yeah, exactly. So, his company is basically, agency is saying you can't be in a Steam game. And then I did a little bit of digging. Shout out to Hogue Law. That's the man right there. He's got a great virtual legality on it. It appears as if they say the reason behind the reasoning is anything that's connected to the internet. Right. So I'm like, okay, but games are still like PS5 has a browser, has a browser. So it's like, Xbox. So it's very interesting, this level of restriction. Then I do understand Sega's point where Sega's like, look, let's be real. There's a whole push to get these games on PC on the back end, right? Because or at the same time, right? Because you're gonna get that extra revenue. It seems like the industry is going that way. We see Sony with Nixus, got them to do the PC ports. Microsoft was out front of it. Hey, we're putting a lot of our first party on Steam. Like, in order to get that additional revenue and to have additional legs, you're putting your game out there. And I could totally see Sega like, look, tell Johnny and them, like, what's up? Like, we want this game on PC. Right. So yeah, this might not end well, because if there's not any way to make any amendments, I feel, to contractually, then I don't see you can move forward with this guy, because the business model of Sega is to get these games on PC. And it's sad because Judgment, from my understanding, I haven't played one yet, because I'm a Yakuza Like a Dragon. Like, Judgment, from my understanding, plays like the traditional style as far as the combat and everything else, like the Yakuza games, as opposed to Like a Dragon, which is now switched more to turn-based. So it's a shame, because every time I look at the preview, the game looks fire. Like, I really want to play it. And it's sad, like, damn, this series is about to come to an end because of an actor whose agency. Yeah. So this is just it's an unfortunate situation. But I'm curious your thoughts on it. I know you're connected to Judgment, and I just want to know what you felt about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because on one front, I wonder how much they've invested in Lost Judgment, because one thing I've noticed when playing the first Judgment is, wow, they reuse everything from the old Yakuza games, which isn't a problem. It's a spin-off and it's set in Kamurocho again, so everything's familiar, but like every location you go to pretty much is from the Yakuza games. And
wait, hold on. Top. You saying they reusing the whole assets from the
map?
The
map is identical outside of a couple of locations. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's what they do, right? Like in some of the Yakuza games, you're still running around Kamurocho. That's what's so tantalizing to me. I've been using that word a lot today. That's what's so, we'll say, attractive to me about Like a Dragon and Lost Judgment, is they're both set in, it starts with an I. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting it, but it's a new part of the city.
Yes.
And so for me, I haven't played Like a Dragon yet, so I'm very much looking forward to Lost Judgment, because it will be new to me. And I want to look at it through that lens, not as someone who's played Kiwami 1 and 2 and then jumped into Judgment. It's like, oh, wow, I'm seeing most of the same sights, smells, and everything that I did in the first game. So the reason I bring all of this up is because I feel for the amount of assets that have been reused. By the way, they did invest, like the cutscene work, the intro, the music for the game, phenomenal. Combat, really fun. So they did invest in this game. But I look at it and go, okay, they reused a ton of stuff. How high budget is this game? And is it easy for them to profit off of it with this? So maybe Steam is just an effort to maximize that profit, or maybe they really did invest big in Lost Judgment, and it's not as, content reused heavy as I feel the original Judgment is, where they're like, we need all the money we can get here. Because I don't know if no PC is such a make or break for the series. Maybe they accepted it for the first entry, and then they went, all right, second one, we got to get this done. I thought of mods, though, for the reasoning behind this. Like,
let's go.
Damaging Takuya Kimura's appearance online, because people will mod these games on PC, and maybe the way that like people could change his clothes or his body or whatever, that would be bad for him, even though it's all gains for the game and in turn gains for his career. But I was thinking that could be part of it, is not even the strict control of his likeness, which, like I said, he can't even follow his own wife on Instagram.
Yeah, that's all. Bro.
Yeah, and that's on another level, man. And then something like this, he's probably like, oh, that's tame of them. But yeah, I'm wondering if that's what bars the game from getting into the PC space, is the mods.
It's a good point. I didn't think about it. Obviously, mods, but it's still, Matty, it's a level of strictness that I'm not. I wonder if it's just a cultural thing with the way
it's possible
actors and stuff are handled there, and it's just a level of delicacy with the likeness that they just don't want to risk, because I've just never seen anything like that before. But yeah, mods is a possibility. I will say this to your point as far as the PC legs and stuff. I always butcher their name. I'm just going to call them RGG Studios, because you know what I'm talking about, Rio, whatever. So I thought it was interesting that they would kind of had their chest out about how well the Yakuza series was doing, and that how well that they're going to keep moving forward is going to stay turn-based, like how Like a Dragon was, and that they promote like Judgment is going to be for the traditional guys who liked it the old way. So when I hear those statements, to me, moving forward, these were the future tenants. This style going forward with like, so to now see them back away from it because of this, to me, I think they like the idea of it being on multiple platforms. We just had it on Xbox. They saw the success of that. They saw Game Pass. And they said financially it did well. It was they said Yakuza was one of the highest selling, and it's got to be because it's on more devices, in my opinion. So it's very, I could see why Sega is annoyed. Like, yo, this is a grander picture for us to have it on more devices. So it's I hope they can resolve it. It would be unfortunate just to lose the whole series because of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And to just tack on, because it's something I sort of noticed since this story broke, and maybe it's just I'm paying closer attention to it and maybe picking up on things that are irrelevant, but I think it's worth pointing out that when I played Kiwami 1 and 2, I loved Kiryu, main character for those games, because obviously he's a good-hearted guy, and he's sort of like Mr. Does Everything, but he also, in the side quests, gets into these very unlikely situations, and he's awkward and funny, and sometimes he's stupid. I love that, right? Like sometimes they make him look a little goofy. What I've noticed with Yagami, the guy you play as, it was based off Takuya Kimura, is they very much hero complex him in every side quest. Wow. No matter what he's doing, he is the ultimate hero, the savior. And I get it, because the game's Judgment. It's about justice. So there's a theme there. But there hasn't been a room for him to slip a little bit. Like, oops, what happened here? Like, he never really gets caught up in that trouble in the side quests, which has been underwhelming, because it's not like taking me on those twists and turns that a Yakuza side quest typically does, where you're like, why am I here in this room with like 5 guys with their shirts off now?
That's Like a Dragon. That's why I fell in love with it, bro. Ichiban does the same. It's like, yo, what is going on here? But continue.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's part of it. I think they had their hand in the creative jar a little bit more, and I don't know if, like I said, I could just be seeing things that I'm overthinking. So I'm not gonna run away with it. But I think it's worth taking note of that. Once again, they hero complex the fuck out of this dude. And he's a good character, but in the side quest, they fail to build that personality because it's just always like, I'm here to save you, you know? And it's just, it's something I wanted to
feel you. Listen, I defer to you with the analysis. And that is interesting, maybe because of the creative control aspect.
They want his image to look good.
Yeah, they want his image. Yeah, good. This is a good topic, man.
Like here, I'm going to point out a side quest on how I think it would sort of go. It's a weird side quest because there is no, even in Judgment, I'll say there's no side quest that's like just very, very normal, we'll say. Right. But how I think it would go in a Yakuza game with Kiryu versus how it went in Judgment. So mild spoiler. But long story short, there's this guy flying a drone around taking women's underwear from their clotheslines. And you're like, all right. So, of course, Yagami's like the hero of the day. And you're running around and you track this guy down. His name's the Panty Professor, and you beat the fuck out of him, right? And so at the end of the day, he's like, you're weird, like, don't do that. And I'm like, I know for a damn fact that there would be like a moment of hesitation for Kiryu where he'd be like, no, like, that's wrong, right? Like, right. But they can't do that. They just can't. And it's not like they need to do that because, like I said, it's fucking weird, right? But I'm just saying that type of humor is in those games. And I was like, it was, of course, it's a little more serious Judgment, but I think Kiwami's story was surprisingly serious. So was Kiwami too. Like all of them are like it's missing that goofiness in a lot of ways, I feel. And so just something I want to point out a more example based.
I'm with you. Like I said, you've got the Judgment experience. I got the Like a Dragon experience. And literally what you said is the types of side quests that are in Like a Dragon that I fell in. I was like, what is this goofiness? One of them had me chasing like someone's pissing and urinating in the ocean, and we got to find out who did this. I'm like, what type of quest is this? Like, it's crazy. Like, I was like, but the character puts himself in those vulnerable, weird situations, and you get to see a different flavor and it's to your point, which I think is excellent, which because of this actor, because of his prestige and what's going on, they may not be allowed. I don't think you're too far off for that. I don't think you're too far.
It's possible, right? I think it's worth pointing out for the audience because it appears Judgment's coming to Game Pass at some point, so people will be able to get their hands on it soon. You can pay attention to that for yourself. Let me know if I'm wrong. Number 7, final bit of news here. We talked about this many months ago. NieR Automata is finally receiving a PC patch after years of waiting that hopes to address all the nagging issues this version has. A second push was made by fans when they saw how well the Game Pass version of the game performed on PC. The new patch is heading to Steam on July 15th and will include the following: borderless video settings, Fidelity FX, HDR, anti-aliasing, UI textures at 4K. Cutscenes will be upgraded in a way. They say the bitrate has been improved and all pre-rendered cutscenes are adjusted so they'll now play in 60 FPS and displaying the correct aspect ratio without stretching the picture. Global illumination's receiving a change. They say a new global illumination can be set to 3 different levels: high, medium, or low. Ambient occlusion and bloom will be adjusted. And then some bug fixes. It's now possible to switch between the recently selected display modes for screenshots, such as between full screen and windowed or borderless and windowed mode. By pushing the Alt and Enter keys together, the mouse cursor is no longer displayed when using a gamepad controller. The frame rate has been stabilized at 60 FPS under default settings. Other stability-related fixes have been implemented. I apologize, by the way. We do have one more item on the news. But,
go for it.
Despite that, have you played NieR Automata before?
I have not. Yeah, it's a gap. One of those weird gaps for me, man. But I always hear good things. Always great things. A lot of my friends truly love it. So it's very interesting to see all these PC settings that are being fixed and adjusted so that it could be on par. It seems like really cool settings. But what about you, man? You're a big fan of the series?
Yeah, I like NieR a lot. I'm not crazy about Replicant, which came out this year, but Automata is Replicant's a good game. I should make sure I make that clear. But it's just Automata is such a phenomenal game that it sort of dwarfs that one. But yeah, the PC version of Automata was terrible. A lot of people just really ripped it apart. And then the Game Pass version comes out on PC and it works fine. And people are like, oh, hold up. I bought this on, they're like, hold up. I bought this on Steam. I want this thing to work. And so they announced a patch a couple months ago and now they're releasing it and got it. 4 years after launch, here we are. Now the game will work. The game will seemingly work how it should be on PC. That is, I think their PC sales either must have been terrible or they just didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
4
was.
years. Damn.
Yeah. But good for them.
Mm-hmm. Salute.
Number 8, just a short little write up here. I personally don't have too much more to add, but Psychonauts 2 officially boasts a invincibility mode. It is an option for players to cut beneath the easy mode and attempt to make the game more accessible. It's able to be toggled on and off in the options, so nothing will be forced on the player. Yeah, I'm sure this will go well.
Interesting. Yeah. Listen, this is actually a little polarizing in the community. I found out that there's some people who are really against this kind of stuff, and I think I don't want to throw my Souls guys under the bus because a lot of my Souls, they don't like the easy modes, they don't like a lot of that stuff. They want the purity of it, and I don't know. Like, I don't really care too much to be angry either way about it, but there is a part of me, if Psychonauts 2 does not, in my opinion, I haven't played it, but it doesn't seem to sell itself as one of these games with these very high difficulty spikes. So it's just an interesting that I'm like, okay, they're considering putting this mode in, but hey, if people want to try it, knock themselves out. I mean, I don't know where you're at with this stuff.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset that this is a mode, and it's like a difficulty, right?
Right.
I don't see what there is to be up in arms about. Now, if we're talking like, hey, we've shifted the design of the game, we've changed X, Y, and Z, this will affect all players on some way, shape, or form.
Right.
You have a right to be angry, I think. I'm of the mindset that once we start talking about the actual design of the game being altered, where it is now impacting all players, I feel that's almost counterproductive to the issue. I feel like it's overcommitting to one side to address feedback when you're leaving another side now. So yeah, when it comes to, of course, the Souls games have really carried this argument for years and years. And if they want to put a mode, that's fine. I really don't care if it's a mode. But really what is so great about those types of games is like you said, the purity of you just fire it up and you learn the game over time. I respect FromSoft a lot for just doing their thing, man. They've kind of blocked out the noise and they just make their games. And if they want to do that, no one can tell them, just go do something different with it. So as great as it would be, and we'd love to see more people get into Souls, they're probably not going to. And I know accessibility is important, but there's just certain companies that I don't think are strongly interested on that level because it demands a lot of development time and testing.
Yeah. No, I think you said it best, brother. I completely agree. As long as it's within the vision of the creator, I'm about it. Right. You know what I'm saying? If they feel like whatever. Yeah, that's their vision. Let them rock. If they don't want that, fine. If they want it, then it's an option. So it is what it is.
All right. Now that's all of our news for the week. And we get into our Game Pass pick of the week, which Cog handled this one. And when you said it to me, I went, oh, all right. Like I was looking at this one. I saw the reviews weren't crazy, but you like this game. I'm like, all right, like I want to be sold on this one. So let's talk about your Game Pass pick of the week.
It's Empire of Sin, man. Now look, full disclosure, the ratings ain't the highest, but the reason why I like it, again, you got to be in a mindset here. We put you in the mindset. The mindset is this. Now, you got to be in your Broadwalk Empire 1920s Prohibition Chicago gangster vibe. Right? Okay.
Very specific, but I think I can manage that.
Yeah, you try to sell the hooch. You know what I'm saying? You try to whatever. This you're ridden that, come on, see? With the Tommy guns. Like, you got to be in that bag, right? The Dick Tracy, the old school. Like this, first of all, the music is phenomenal. Whoever does their music, phenomenal, right?
I believe that.
Turn-based, for my turn-based lords, if you like turn-based games, right? Turn-based, there's 2 layers to it. There's the actual speech check layer. So you got like a little, I ain't gonna get crazy with Mass Effect level speech checks, but they have basically the bosses that you pick. You have all these different types of bosses you can pick to run your organization, right? And basically, based on what you pick, they have their strengths and their weaknesses, and then they have their own different abilities, right? So you have the gangster component, which is basically trying to take over territories, establishing your crew, recruiting people into your squad, right? Then you have the police, who they could be a hindrance. You got to try to bribe them to get them to work with you, stuff like that.
Right.
And then what they have, what I love, I call it like the gangster diplomacy segment. So basically, if I come over to your area, right, and I could be like, look, we running this over here, and we could try to have a sit down to avoid conflict. I could go with guns blazing, we could just fight, and then it's turn based versus turn based, right? But we could have this diplomacy thing where it's cinematic. You sit down, I sit down, and then we try to see what we can offer each other. And then from there, at that point, we can form alliances and stuff like that. It's a surprisingly deep game. Now, mechanic wise, obviously it's like UI wise a little wonky. I will say that UI is a little wonky, but there's a 4K mode. There's 120 frames per second mode in a turn-based game moving around a map, which is very interesting to me. But look, if you're a fan of that time era, that whole bit, it's a love letter to the era. So Empire Sin, 1920s, old school Chicago, you're running rackets, you're doing all type of stuff. It's a fun, and it's in Game Pass. Give it a shot, bro. Give it a shot. But yeah, Empire Sin, man, I do like it so far.
So why were the reviews not great for the game then? Is what my question was. Like, what was the kind of drawback for so many people? Because I didn't read into it. I just saw it and I was like, all right, maybe I'll get to it on my own. Two things.
I feel the menus are a little cumbersome. There were a lot of technical issues with the game initially. You know what I'm saying? There were some issues. And then I haven't obviously beaten it, so I don't know how the story then progresses after like the midpoint on. So I would assume it's the technical aspects and maybe the payoff in the end. Maybe people didn't, feel it was the payoff. It was as good. But I have to admit, if you like turn-based and you like, because I feel turn-based games either fall into a category, which is the gameplay itself is fun, but then there's no what I call strategy layer. Like XCOM has a strategy layer, which are based. Like this has a very in-depth strategy layer, and if you like that type of minutia, it's going to be for you. But for some, maybe it's just too cumbersome, and combined with the UI issues are a little wonky. I will say the UI is a little, but it's still a fun game if you like turn-based and if you like the era.
It reminds me of a game I played on my Switch. The reason I stopped was because the text was too tiny. That was back when that was a problem around the launch era of the Switch. Was like text was really hard to read for certain games, and they had to adjust. It's called, I was looking it up while you were talking. It's called Phantom Doctrine. And have you played that?
We just became bro. Are you serious?
Yeah.
You know about that, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. That's underrated.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. I love Phantom Doctrine. I still got it. I got to finish. I'm halfway through. Yeah, that's my joy. Yeah. That's I interviewed that dev. I remember like they were small little joint Polish studio. Yeah, that game is it's espionage, it's spy.
That's what I love about it. Yep.
Yeah. Bro, and the same thing. Even the title screen music was absolutely phenomenal. And you had to if you get discovered, you had to change your base and stuff like that. They need to put that in Game Pass. Phantom Doctrine. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I'm surprised it's not there. That seems like a really good fit for Game Pass. Like it's just super underrated.
Sadly, I know enough on the background with them. Yeah, they went through some big creative issues with the publisher. And then, now apparently they're making a 2 without the original team. The guy that made the original one is now going to do his own game.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mess. It didn't end well with that whole development thing. Yeah, so I've been in communication with the dev. They're working on their own thing in the spirit of, because apparently whatever they're going to call Phantom Doctrine 2 is not made by them, and it's not blessed by them. So just a heads up.
Yeah, that last part is probably the most important,
Yeah.
All right. Great pick of the week. I'm going to have to look into that when I finish up Judgment. 5 ending questions now to wrap up our show. First one, well, rather 2 questions, but they're quickies, come from Callum Newson. Hey, Dukes, I have 2 questions. 1, Matty, as the Game Pass library keeps changing every few months or so, will you do another Game Pass tier list in the future? I just wanted to wipe this off the list real quick. There has to be enough new stuff added and there for me to dive in, because part of the allure of that video is like it's this movie. So I don't want to take away from our show here and do monthly Game Pass videos on my channel. So I even though I know that would do well on the channel, so I'm like, let me wait for like enough stuff to be there, and I'll do a new tier list probably every year is what I'll end up doing to sort of just satisfy the woolly of the audience.
You killed that.
Yeah, I'm glad it did really well over time. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Number 2, really the main question of this. What games would you like to see have FPS boost? For me, I want NieR Automata. Love the show, guys. Thank you, Callum. So, yeah, when they announced Dark Souls 3 FPS boost, that was it. They were just like, oh, we use a special technique, and Dark Souls 3 has FPS boost. Now, different from how they were typically doing it with widespread, we added 90 games with FPS boost now, and it's like, oh, the whole EA library suddenly happened. They're doing it like special announcements, so we can sort of go game by game now. What is one maybe that you'd want to see with FPS boost?
I'm going to yell it from the rooftops. I'll say it every time on. Rise, Son of Rome, the greatest 900p game in the history of gaming. The most beautifulest 900p thing I've ever seen. I was like, the Xbox One is powerful. I was like, look at this thing. I was amazed. So I like that. And then honorable mention, because I ain't gonna lie, I'm in my Mass Effect Legendary bag. There's a part of me, I gotta confess, there's a part of me that's like, God, I want to play Andromeda after I play, like, just to, I know, just to give it a fair shot with unbiased eyes right after the trilogy and with a frame bump. So with all the patches, right? Because remember how them faces and how it was spooky when that train first launched, right? So I'm so far removed from it that I would like to see what 60 does for it. And I'm willing, after I finish the trilogy, to play Andromeda. So I think, it's Rise of Andromeda. But what about you? Am I going too far crazy with Andromeda?
No. Because here's the thing. Andromeda is, I always say this, a fun game to play. I played it on PC when I reviewed it, and it's a really fun game. And it's, you'd think because of how much I stand Mass Effect 3's multiplayer that, I would be all over Andromeda, but just 3 was an era, man. Like that's all I can define it as. It was an era, a multiplayer that will never be touched again. Woo. And seems like they're bringing it back, but
bring it back, hopefully.
That aside, like, yeah, I think FPS boost on Andromeda would make a lot of people happy because it's just a fun game to play. It's characters and story and all that. I'm less than enthusiastic on. I think BioWare feels the same because they just pretend the game doesn't exist now. Which I understand. There were some hints in the new Mass Effect trailer that they're combining the two, which would not surprise me. Just wrap it in and just make it a small role now.
Yes.
I think for me, I got to go back to games I just played, and I was like, it'd be cool if there was FPS boost here. That was Dead Space. I'd love to see them throw 60 FPS. I guess that could be a turn, right?
60 is high.
Yeah, right.
That's 60, yes.
Right. I think that could work, but hey, 60 FPS too would be nice for the Dead Space trilogy. Because I wanted to play Dead Space 3 with a buddy, and so he only had PC, so I had to hop on there. So that was the only one of the trilogy I played in 60. Luckily, I'm not one of those guys who's losing their mind between the FPS change. But for me, it's God bless you. This is nice. And so
God bless you in that 30 though. God bless,
right. Like I can go through 30. I really don't mind. Like I don't. I like 60 a lot, but when I go to 30, I think it's because I play a lot of retro games. I don't care. Like I just played SMT4 on my 3DS and put like 40 hours and beat it. It's like I don't care that it was probably it's a bunch of pictures with special effects on it. Like at some point it's just the visuals on the screen. I don't but obviously game to game it'll change. Like certain things I may feel need 60, like a shooter. I don't think I could play a shooter in 30.
Okay, so it's more of a genre thing for you. If it's more
like
of
I'm playing Doom.
Yeah,
dude.
No. Okay, so now I get, because I was like, how he doing that? Okay, now I get it now.
Doom,
if it's like
a
narrative experience, single player experience, and it's more about the world and stuff like that, you could deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because there if it's competitive, then frame data matters a lot. And it's like, okay, we need 60 in a fighting game. We need 60 in a shooting game, like 100%. So anything with like competitive elements or online elements, like I do want that 60. But if I'm running around in a world space or I'm going through single player levels,
I got you.
Who's getting affected, man? Like I'm fine. I
got you.
Others are, but I'm fine.
Matty's chilling.
Yeah. Number 2, Zach Schaumler. Hey, Dukes. How do you guys take notes while you play games, or do you? I'd imagine the best strategy is just to pause occasionally and write down your thoughts, or is there another strategy I haven't thought of? P.S. I love the show, and COG has been a fantastic addition. Thank you for the effort you guys put into making this great content. Our pleasure, Zach. Do you, when you do content for the Iron Lords and stuff, for your podcasts, anything you're putting together, last word, do you take notes at all when you play games?
After. I don't do during. I know a lot of people do during. My memory's pretty good in the moment. Like while I'm playing, I'm like, I'll like document key moments. I'm like, okay, I don't like this, or I love this. You know what I'm saying? And then after the session, I will play. But like, I believe maybe, I don't know if I gotta ask E if he does it. Like during, I know a lot of my friends do, you know, when they'll have like a side pad or have their tablet, you know what I'm saying? And they'll write stuff down, you know, kind of thing. But like, I'm a person that I'll experience it, but I have to immediately, once I'm done, get to my computer or get to my, you know, whatever, and then write down, hey, yeah, I remember this, da. And that's kind of how I consume. But I don't think I take notes per se. I don't remember ever taking notes per se during. But what about you?
I do during if I'm studying for a project or something, because I don't trust my memory. Okay. I have a good memory, I'd say, but it can also be like Swiss cheese in certain moments. Yeah. And I don't want to get into calling out people here, but like, I genuinely, I remember reading a thread online once. It was a Twitter thread, and there were a bunch of like game reviewers just really puffing out their chest on the idea. They're like, I don't take notes at all when I play. I think it's about the natural experience of what sticks in your mind when you write. And I'm like, that's brave. I was like, that's brave, because there's shit that you will like that you will forget. And it's just that simple. It really is. And so I am, I'm not even doing this to lift my platform up, but I genuinely do it because I don't want to forget something that someone in the audience may care about. Like, it may be lower tier priority for me, but that thing may be significant for someone else. So I try to write down everything I can. They're in notes that only like I would understand anyway. So it doesn't matter. Like, they're just 2-second little write downs. It never really pulls me out of the game either, because, I get excited or I'm just like, this sucks. And I just scribble away. But yeah, it's, I do also, I don't even use my tablet for it. I commit it to memory almost when I use it with a pen and paper. I like to do it that way. It feels like there's a different connection with my brain there. When I'm typing, I'm almost in a flow mode. When I'm writing, though, it's like, we're committing this to memory so we can speak more authoritatively. It's just it's all mindset.
Process. Yeah. I see the creative. Like for me, I was like, I do commit probably way too much to memory, but like there's always, I'm a person that I'm the opposite, where when I type, then it starts coming back I'm like, oh yeah, this, and then I'll have some key points to myself. But it's interesting how we, each person works individually and comes up with the content. But yeah, you do a phenomenal job with that, because it's very detailed, very extensive, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. So yeah, I could totally see that work.
Well, what's great is Elgato, usually while I'm doing this for probably a review or a project of some kind, and like Elgato has like game title and then file name, which, by the way, this was not a thing for me for a while, because I used Hauppauge, which is, by the way, good product and good recording software. I used it for most of my career. But Elgato, just the ability to name your file before it actually saves, is so helpful. So if I get a bug in the middle of my playthrough, I'm like, I want to show that in my review, I can name it like Assassin's Creed Unity floor bug. And it's like, now I know what to look for. So then I write my notes, and sometimes I won't even bother writing a note, because I'll be like, I'll go into the video files and read the file names and be like, okay, like, right, I want to hit this. And then I'll not rewatch them, by the way, but I'll skim through them, like click, and see what's there and be like, okay, right, I want to talk about this too. So sometimes it depends. If I'm in my flow big time, it's like, let's not break this moment, because I want to experience this as most normal consumers would. But yeah, it really depends. It's experience by experience.
Yeah, good question.
Andrew McGregor is next. Good day, Dukes. I had a conversation that got me thinking. I spoke to a father at a son's soccer match, and we got into video games. He asked me what's my game. He was into COD. I told him I've played COD, but kind of like to try all sorts of games. It made me think, as my son plays a lot of Rainbow Six Siege and other games. I generally try and play all games I really like the look of across all platforms. with an ongoing FIFA career to fill in those blanks. However, it seems an anecdotal amount seem to play one game or at best a handful. I said a handful. Is this something others have seen? Could it become an issue? Or is it the industry just maturing? Am I just an old grump, not hip with the times?
That's a good one. So it seems, shout out to Andrew. Yeah, it seems like he's more of a diverse portfolio gamer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of gets out there, plays different things. I think I'm in that bag, you know, and maybe it's an older thing as well, you know, because for me, I also feel like, you know, I want to try and experience different things. I want to see what's the latest craze, or what's the newest genre that takes, you know, whatever, or just something that people are generally passionate about that I don't know about. I have to know, like, what's going on. Now, granted, I have my pockets, right? There's certain things that, like I told, Destiny's Home, that gunplay, the music, you know what I'm saying? Like that, there's certain things, but, you know, I think what I notice now, there's like a little civil war going on, Matty, with the gaming community, which is like, I think I don't want to generalize everyone, but for what I see, in my experience with younger generation, sometimes they have like maybe just that 2 or 3 game pocket, and that they're cool with that. They're totally cool with that. They're like, yo, I play COD, or I play this and maybe 2 other things, and that's it. And that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I don't not classify them as a gamer or a hardcore gamer or something like that. You know, I just think it's pockets. We all got our own pocket. And I think that it's fine. Whatever you're doing, if that gives you enjoyment, even if it's that one game, like if that's giving you ultimate enjoyment and you just live in this world and that's all you want to do, fine. For me, I just I'm like Andrew, like I like to experience different things. I want to see what's going on in different genres. And then, to be honest, that's how I got into turn-based, bro, because I never played a turn-based game. It was PlayStation 1, XCOM, UFO Defense.
Wow.
And I was like, what is this game? I was completely fooled. That was back when the box art, you had to, like, you know what I'm saying? They were fooled, like, oh, the box art look cool. Let me get it. Right. And the graphics weren't great. And I was just like, all right. But like, me and the crew made a fun thing of it. Like, we land the Sky Ranger, 6 of us. So we're like, all right, that's me. You name me that. You know, we were naming the characters. All right, move me over there by the house. Put me on Overwatch. Like, I made a fun, and I started to get into this strategy game. I'm like, yo, these are mad fun. If I would have never tried it, I would have never experienced anything like that. And completely, like, now turn-based is a huge part of who I am as a gamer.
Right.
So I just, to conclude, I feel like, I think gamers, it would be cool if they would try different things, you know what I'm saying? And see more things, that you could learn more things that you might be into. But I don't kill that. I'm not like the old like grumpy old man. Like, this is the problem with the youth today, y'all. Y'all not out here. Yeah. I ain't on that. You know what I'm saying? Got it. But where are you at? I'm very curious with you. Where are you at?
I grew up a COD kid, right? So I was that was my thing for many, many, many years. And then I just had this spiritual awakening in 11th grade where I was like, I'm done. I can't play this anymore. And I still like the occasional COD, but I just don't think I can ever go back to my days of endless multiplayer grinding. And I'd throw in BioWare RPGs in there. Like, that's the thing. There was the boy still alive in there who grew up on KOTOR, who grew up on Mass Effect, and replaying those games. You know, I'd throw in the occasional BioWare game, Death Row on the Xbox. You know, like, I go back to my comfort areas. But outside of that, like, I was a COD kid, and then I just had this spiritual awakening. And I don't know if anyone wants to do a little Mr. Matty research, there is a video on my old YouTube channel, which is my Twitter handle, G27status. You can look it up, and it says, like, go subscribe to Mr. Matty Plays. I don't know if the video is there or not. That will sit, like, the one I'm thinking of is where I just say, like, I'm moving on to single player games. Like,
this is where you divorce Call of Duty. You basically like you divorce it.
Yeah, pretty much. And from there, like, I never looked back, because I was like, this is so much better. So much variety and diversity. And that was really my flavor here on the channel. I remember making like Sly Cooper videos, and just then in general, the enthusiasm of the games industry sort of pushed me to look into new things, try new things. for me, that kind of you talked about XCOM, that like, well, I like this. For me, it was Divinity Original Sin 1. You know, I was in college, and I remember just playing that one summer afternoon, and that feeling I got of, you know, looking at the clock, it was 4 when I started, and then it was 10, and going, oh no, we got a problem on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. And that game was just spectacular. So yeah, I think as you grow and you get a little older, you start to evolve into more experiences, but some don't. I kind of envy the people who can sit in their pocket and play a game over and over. I've sort of accepted I don't think I'm that guy. I think I would rather beat like 3 30-hour games than sit in one game for 90 at times. I'll play your 90-hour game if it's good, but you know, like I'm thinking MMOs where you're just in there a lot, you know, just repeating content. I think I would rather go experience a lot of different things. I think, yeah, there's a job benefit there of just calling from all these different experiences. But beyond that, just as a person, like even if you just eliminated this job today, that's probably what I generally do. Cause I spent most of high school lazing about in one game, and it's like, that was fun. That was an era.
Yeah. Yeah, no, bro. It's funny you said that because while you're talking, all I'm thinking about is Destiny, right? And right now, there's a civil war in the Destiny community. And what it is that, again, I was that guy that's just Destiny, and it's such a selfish, self-absorbed game. You can literally, just by grinding, not play anything else. Now, what has happened is they've gone to a seasonal model, right?
Right.
And what the seasonal model is just more casual. And what I like, you can log on Tuesday on a reset. You can get most of the stuff done in a day or two, right? And then what I love about it is I can go back to the rest of my games. You know what I'm saying? So I actually love it. Whereas the hardcore who, let's say, have Destiny only inspired YouTube channels, right? Who they want to live in the game. They blaze through it, you know what I'm saying, very fast. And now they're frustrated. And my thing is, I'm like, bro, play other games. There's other stuff out here, but it's hard as a content creator. But that's what I'm in. I'm in that place where I love being able to get 4 or 5, like you said, games finished, and I can still play Destiny occasionally. You know what I'm saying? And I just love just having all these different experiences under my belt. So I like where they're at right now.
I agree. Full Metal McCoy's next. Hey, Duke men, very random question, but what are your thoughts on the game Alpha Protocol from Obsidian? The spy genre is one of my favorites in all forms of media, and combining that with RPG mechanics sounds like my dream game. I just bought it off Amazon for $10, and I'm looking forward to giving it a try despite the rough reviews. Do you think Obsidian deserves another crack at an espionage RPG? Thanks. Have you played this?
No, but shout out to Full Metal McCoy. He made me research this. I researched this because of you.
Oh, yeah?
Yo, that game looked cool. Yeah. I never heard of that game. I was like, it's Obsidian did some spy. Now, granted, there was some jank.
That's what
I saw it. Let's just say that the premise was fire to me.
Yeah.
I don't know about the execution. I saw the speech check stuff that I was like, okay, some classic Obsidian in there. They would try. I would like them to give hey, what about a sequel?
Yeah.
I mean, or just another genre. The only reason why I'm saying it is I just like the genre. I'm not saying that particular title may be the goal, but I like espionage. So I would love to see them do it. But I'm going to defer to you. Did you play your team?
It's kind of like a guilty pleasure RPG. It's one of the reasons why I praise the Outer Worlds so much is I think people forget. This was the Obsidian we knew. Like they dropped. This wasn't by traditional standards a good game. They dropped it, and it was just very broken, buggy. You know, you look at New Vegas, one of the most definitive open world RPGs, probably the definitive one, honestly. I think it was Jeff Grubb who said this, so I don't want to take his quote, but it was well said where he thought Cyberpunk was built its open world off of GTA 5 rather than New Vegas, and it really got me thinking on like, wow, New Vegas really should be the blueprint for a lot of these studios. So it was really well said. But you look at these games, and even New Vegas came with a lot of bugs and jank, and it needed work. And then you look at the Outer Worlds, and it's like, wow, it came out polished, and there's choice and consequence too. Great. Like, I love that my only complaint with the game was the combat really wasn't that great because it felt way too easy. So, a little off track there. But my point being is that just when you look at a game like Alpha Protocol, it can be a guilty pleasure, but I think nothing more. I don't think you could sit there and go, like, this is a good game. unless you get really lucky in your playthrough. But it can just get frustrating for people, right? I call it the Morrowind effect. So what people have a problem with what's it called? Alpha Protocol is what I had an issue with when it came to Morrowind. So this is something like your one-handed skill in Morrowind. It's 10 as you start your game. So you're running up to all sorts of creature and you're swinging. All yours the
it will sound like the butter knife effect.
You are whiffing because your one-handed skill isn't high enough. So it makes sense, but your brain's not connecting because you see the sword going through their body and you're not doing damage. Especially as a kid. Imagine being like, however old I was, 8, seeing this. I thought the game was broken, right? I'm like, there's something wrong here. So then you got Alpha Protocol here. Skill-driven combat through dice roll and everything. So you'll take out that gun. You're aiming right at this dude's head. You can't miss. You pull the trigger. You're like, I didn't hit him. And you'll just keep shooting, and it's dice rolling for each shot. And it's like, I'm not hitting him.
No.
So some people eat that up. They're like, yeah, I love the dice rolling. I love the true RPG nature. That's why some people really defend Mass Effect 1 over the Legendary Edition, because they're like, they made it too easy. Because God forbid in a game with RPG mechanics, you fucking aim and shoot and hit your target. Like, hey, God forbid, right? I don't get it. I really don't.
Talk that ME1 slander.
I was gonna say, I'm Mr. RPG, right? Like, I can't get why people have such an issue with that, because Mass Effect Legendary is just a perfect hybrid, man. Like, they literally just made it where it's like, it checks your skills, but if you're but like the spread will be impacted, but your aim will not. Like, it's just that simple. But anyway, Alpha Protocol really falls in that same category. Really cool cutscenes, really cool choices, great replayability, but it requires patience. Like, it really does. But if you can get past that, I mean, especially for $10, yeah, it was a game that I got clowned on a lot, but I think over time, like, people appreciate certain aspects of it because you're not paying full price.
Do you want them to have another crack at it?
Do I want
another? You don't see it. Yeah, see, this is where you go. I see you out the window on this one. You like, that was nice.
I like their roadmap now. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. Like, you're hearing that, like, they're working on some type of isometric RPG on top of Avowed, which is like their Skyrim, and then a new Outer Worlds, and then they got Ground. Like, I love Obsidian's roadmap. I would not touch a thing. But if they did say, like, we're making a new Alpha Protocol, I'd be like, all right, you know.
But not even like Alpha Protocol, just like to what McCoy say, an espionage RPG.
Oh yeah,
something.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're cool with the genre. That's what I wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The genre is one of the strongest parts of the game. It's just, there's really nothing like it.
Gotcha. Fair enough.
All right. Last question of the show. Casey Sitter, who maybe is standing. Good day, Duke, Matty, and Lord Cog. I've been playing The Division 2 for the first time, and I'm surprised with how good the single-player experience is. Are there any other multiplayer games that are just great playing solo?
That's a good one. Yeah, Division is actually, you can do a lot in Division solo. That I was actually pleasantly surprised. Not too many that I can recommend. I mean, because even with Destiny, I gotta give it, I gotta give it up. Like, it's really meant to play with people, kind of thing. I will say this, if you can get it to work, if it's been patched, Outriders, a lot of people, shout out to my boy E.
That's a good one.
Yeah, Outriders, I play some of it, single play. I will say you get a lot of challenge with creating a good build and have some survivability with it, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So
right.
I would say that's probably, as far as a multiplayer focused games that are still decent solo. But what about you? You got any ones you want to throw in the hat that you could think of?
Minecraft. I think Minecraft's one. That's a game that I think could thrive in either role, honestly. Like, you can do a solo run and really have a good time, or you can, of course, build a big server and have a blast as well. I think that's one I would personally pick, although I have not. Minecraft's in that intimidating area of, like, number one, I don't know if it would take hold of me, but if it does, it could be a dangerous game, right? Like, I have not dove back in years.
Okay, yeah, because I'm scared of death for that game.
Yeah, that game.
Some games I just know. Yeah,
because the thing with Minecraft is, like, after playing Dragon Quest Builders, I'm like, I think I like this approach more. You know, I
Gotcha.
like the idea of building a room with purpose. I don't have to imagine the purpose. Like, I don't have to put together the machines and say, like, label on like some signpost, this is what it is. Like, the game gives you the blueprints, you put it together, and like you can creatively stitch these rooms together and they become something else. Like, there's a mechanic there.
Yep.
I like that a little bit more. So that's my preferred approach now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Cog, that's all we got for episode 28 of Defining Duke. This was a phenomenal one.
Yes. Fire.
Absolutely.
Fire
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you to the audience for their time. If you got this deep, the hashtag, I feel like it'll be easy this week. Last week we said we don't know. We're like, we don't know. This week, I think we got to have some idea. There was enough.
There's enough. We had a lot of good stuff. We had the
I feel like Destiny was a pretty
Destiny was a big one.
Yeah.
Destiny was a big one. We could roll that. We got I thought the the actor dude, that was a good one. I don't know why I enjoyed that one.
Oh yeah.
What with the Steve and the J?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Agency DD.
Yeah, I like that.
Agency DD, because I just find it funny that Johnny and Associates ain't trying to let him do that on Steve. You want to do Agency
We already
DD?
know who to target too, right? It's Johnny, all right? Like, he puts his name in the
We can roll that either one. Either one. I'm good with
I like Agency DD. You got this deep.
doubt.
Let us know in the comments. Tag us on Twitter. Hashtag Agency DD. Looking forward to interacting with you. Thanking you for watching our show. We appreciate you all so much. And until episode 29, take good care of yourselves, or don't. Have a mediocre day, whichever works for you. Peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.